Alrighty.
Hello, everybody. Oh no,
What?
ramen was not working for a moment there. I fixed it. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the first lore podcast. For with between it is I Draknus 2009. We have the excellent Ramen Blitz, and new to the channel is Ashikai. Ashikai, would you like to introduce yourself?
I'm also streaming on my channel. I'm not new to them, but hi, Ashika. I do lore videos for Genshin Impact, Honkai Star Rail, and Arknights Endfield right now.
Excellent. And I do have them linked in the descriptions as well as in the title, so please go give them a sub if you haven't already. And today we're going to be talking about the lore of 1.4 as well as general lore of Arknights. Ashikai, I know you are relatively new to this universe.
Yep. I know enough to get myself in trouble, and that's about it.
Well, and getting in trouble is actually how I found you. This is going to sound a little strange, but the first time I was sent your videos was actually for your Camille theory video. And the context behind why I was sent it was, hey, this person got a lot of stuff wrong.
Oh boy.
No. Outed!
To be completely honest with you, you didn't get that much wrong. Honestly, your theories were fine. I didn't actually have that many issues with it. But once I saw it, I was like, hey, this is a person who sounds like she's really fun to talk to. This is the kind of person I would love to actually kind of sit down, have discussions, and kind of get the new player perspective. There's a lot of people in the Arknights community who have actually fully read the story of Arknights. But it's massive, it's dense, it's long, it's a full, like, multiple novels worth of information.
That's why I say, like, I know enough to get myself in trouble. And I get myself in trouble a lot.
Mm-hmm. But that's why we're here. I completely understand, especially someone who's playing as many different games as you and diving into the lore of all these games. Finding the time to pick up something as dense as this is a lot. So I think this will be a great opportunity to sort of not just get your perspective on things as someone who kind of only has sort of the wiki level view of everything, but also possibly have conversations. We can educate each other to some degree. Because again, you'll give me the perspective on the story that on like Enfield story as someone who doesn't have all the context of the original game, and then I can kind of give you my own context back, and I think that will be fun.
Yeah, at the very least, I can offer a unique perspective at this point because it's not you know how, like, some games rely on a lot of unreliable narrators?
Absolutely.
And they mislead for, like, a long time, and then when something comes out and it's, like, totally different from what you were set up to believe, it's, like, really jarring.
Mm-hmm.
I am free from jarring at this point.
Well, that's what's so interesting about Arknights, and I guess we'll start with this. Because Arknights has a lot of that. The lore is told almost always from the perspective of in-universe scientists and people like scholars within the universe writing their own interpretations of how their world works. I know you at least, Ash, and I know Ramen recently has picked up the Terra a Journey lore book, which is sort of kind of the lore bible of the Arknights world. But that entire book is written from an in-person perspective of E. Erickson, who is a scholar within the world. So nothing we can say technically is going to be 100% accurate all the time. That is just the nature of this. You will have some Arknights purists out there who will swear that they know everything and that if you get even a small detail wrong, then your point is rendered mute, but I do not agree with that. That the way this world is written allows for interpretation.
I'll also say that even on the Enfield side, it feels like every single operator file and every single Nexus file, everything is written from also unreliable narrators. So it goes on
Yep,
both ends of that universe.
absolutely.
Yeah, it is interesting because like I come from the theory crafting side of the Hoyoverse,
Mhm.
and a lot of that is also unreliable or written just really in vague terms. But like with Genshin and such, there's some stuff that's like very concrete that's written from like an more objective third party, and it doesn't change. And then there's other things that are like, this is written by character perspectives, or this is an opinion, or this is like, and so like I'm used to kind of having a little bit of a baseline of some stuff that is almost certainly to be factual, if not just slightly misinterpreted. So
Yep,
it is interesting to go into a zone where everything is interpretive.
absolutely.
You're way stronger than me because my head is really bad when I'm trying to deal with all the HSR stuff. It's so much.
Yeah, and
HSR isn't bad if you don't think too deeply about it.
I'm down. Hey, I like
See,
That's
that.
where I land.
and to be something that's interesting, Ash, I don't know if you're familiar with the Nasu verse or the Fate verse, as it gets called, but
I've dipped my toes, and that's as far as I'm planning to go.
yep. I
I'm
tell
scared
people a
of
lot
it.
of the time, if you just want to watch Fate Zero and Fate Stay Night and like watch the good anime, then that's all you have. Like that's the farthest you would necessarily need to go to get the good stuff. But I know me and Ramen have we've dived deep, both of us, into the Fate
For over a
verse.
decade.
And when I tried to dip my toes into the Hoyoverse and I learned about the imaginary tree, I immediately was like, "Oh, this is on the level of Nasu-verse insanity." And I'm not sure
Yeah.
I'm ready for that yet.
Fate is, I think, if you had to only pick two inspirations for the Hoyoverse, it would be Fate and Evangelion.
Oh yeah, that
Oh
makes a
yeah.
lot of sense.
Yep,
You
I
put
can see
those
that.
two, and you're like 80% of the way there. So
Makes sense. Well, uh I did create a list, and I know I sent it both to you, but just for everybody who is watching, we do have a sort of guideline here of kind of what we will be talking about. Um, it doesn't need to necessarily be in order in any capacity. And I'm going to have to be careful about this because every time I swap to a new screen, Ramen's camera breaks. So I apologize in advance for that. I'm going to minimize that. There we go. So I have the uh, discussion talking points that I created earlier. Do you both have that up by chance, or should I share that?
Oh, I can pull it up.
Okay. Because again, doesn't have to be in order, but I personally kind of wanted to talk about general, like more of the general Arknights or Arknights Endfield stuff to start off with, just because I feel like that'd be a little easier to get into at the beginning here. Um, but if you guys have a direction you want to take it, then I am happy to follow with that.
I play most everything by ear, and I'm even going to keep my chat in the dark about what's going to be talked about, so they're surprised.
Okay.
So I have no preference.
Well,
I do think it might be
I'm
worth
going to get
mentioning.
educated today anyway.
I do think it might be worth mentioning at least Ash's newest video regarding theories of the ether, considering the Blight Shades are probably going to be a major discussion point today. That's a good video. I really like the waveform idea.
Oh, thanks.
yes, I actually
I
did
thought
watch
that
that
was
last
gonna
night
be, like,
myself.
one of the most contentious ones. It's so funny because, like, I thought the Camille one was a bit safer, but then I thought this one was like, "Okay, this is just pure crack."
Well,
But it
But
actually
that's the
seems
best
like
part.
the reception is opposite, and that's really funny to me.
well, so see the problem you ran into is when you're talking about a character who dives into the lore of the first game, like Camille,
Yeah.
you have a lot of context there that the wiki simply cannot give you.
Yeah,
While on the other
there
hand,
is that.
Ether is we don't know shit, so it's very safe.
You're allowed to do whatever.
Yeah.
I guess that's fair.
I think in you
Still funny.
the way you portrayed it in terms of like it being opposite to Originium and figuring out how to justify that with the waveform, I think is why it feels very strong. Quote strong, considering we know nothing. But yeah.
Well, so I actually had
Currently.
So far.
as we go forward. So I have a bunch of screenshots from the game, from the original game, that kind of give some more context. Obviously not for Ether, but mostly for Originium. And that waveform theory, especially regarding infinite possibilities being the opposite of Originium's like one solidified possibility, I think has a lot of backing within the context of the games.
Hey,
And there's and like with the waveform thing, there's also an additional piece I wanted to add to that, which was the Arcane quest. Because in Arcane's main story as part of 1.4, there's a moment where the administrator sort of recreates all of the blight forms that are part of her memories
yeah,
after they get disrupted.
That's what annoyed me. I was like, wait a second. This doesn't make any sense. Like, I know we're working with Protocol-Originium, but this.
Well, see, and there's a way that I think about it, and waveform actually helps with this a little bit, because the way that I kind of consider it is they specifically got dissipated when you saw that blight wave come from the sword that kind of washed them away in a way.
Yeah.
And if you think about it, those blight forms are sort of like a calm puddle of ether that has accumulated there, and that wave has washed over them and disrupted that puddle.
Oh,
And then he's using Originium to calm the wave and allow them to reform again as a puddle.
that reminds me something I didn't get to put in there because I was really strapped for time.
Mhm.
Oh, what's it called? I might have to pull it up separately. There was a readable where some guy was just like writing down his blight observations, and he was talking about how when he stares into the blight, it's like looking into a deep pool of water. Do you know what I'm talking about?
I did read the one. I did not take a screenshot of it though, so I don't have it on me.
I think I know what you're talking about as
Is
well.
it not in the data? Is it in the database? Because I can pull it up.
It probably is. I'm the weird guy who usually, as I'm reading through all my archives, I take screenshots of them all, and then I just have a folder of them.
That's fair enough, though.
That's mostly so that I can put them into videos later on, but
I don't think it's in Nexus. I will find it,
okay, yeah. If you can find that, that'd be great because we can.
and then I can at least read it.
Yeah.
Or to read the one thing I was thinking of, because like that was kind of foundational, and then in the end, it didn't fit in the final.
Well, and that's the
In
thing is
the
like,
final
like waveform, because I kind of view it as like, radiation. All forms of radiation work off of waves. So I view blight at least blight as it is in real space, as sort of a radiation effect. It is its own wavelength, and similar to how a radio wave can be blotted out via a massive amount of interference with other radio waves. That's kind of how I view blight, as a stronger frequency can blot out the weaker frequencies.
Oh yeah. I mean, it works with like just wave theory in general. If
Yeah.
you're going full quantum mechanics.
Exactly.
By the way, the readable was Crewmates Fantasy, but there are like 3 of them. I think it's the second one.
Crewmates Fantasy.
I only have one of them collected.
Well, let me see if I
I
can
need to
pull it
actually
up
get the
in
rest
the
of it.
wiki here, and I can
It
just
should
pull
be
that
in
up on my
Warfare and
screen.
Wiki. Let me pull that up.
Yeah. Thank you,
Yeah.
Warfare and Wiki. You are the best.
It is a good one. Well, hello, Lily. Did you come to say hi? He's a good boy.
Was that your dog?
You'll see. It's like the second paragraph.
Wait. I sent the wrong thing.
Ah,
Oops.
what are you doing?
I looked at the name and said fantasy, and I was like, oh, excited.
See here.
I know there's a number of collectibles that are not in this wiki because they're one-time things that don't appear in the archive.
Well,
Crewmates
Crewmates Fantasy
Fantasy.
is in the archive. I just only have one
Mm.
of them collected. I didn't get the other two yet.
All right. I only see the one here on Warframe Wiki.
Same.
The wiki.gg has 3.
Thank you.
I'll pull it up. I'll read it.
Yeah. I'll just I'll go to the wiki as well then. Crewmates Fantasy. I just want to have it also up for the chat. Yeah, here we go. Here's all 3 pages.
Oh, this one. I see.
Yeah, this one.
All right, so I have it up here. Let me zoom in for the chat. Perfect.
I know it's the 3rd page.
I got all 3 right here.
It's the 3rd page.
Here we go. So strange actually, did you want to read it?
Oh, you can read it.
Okay. So strange, unnatural thoughts occasionally appear in my head as I look at the blight. My musings may not be entirely accurate, but the blight reminds me of water. Whenever I gaze into the blight, I think of calm lakes or stormy seas before other wilder fantasies start emerging. During the infancy of the human race, the very first humans would see their own reflections in the water, so I tried to put myself in their shoes, studied this water, and saw a contorted reflection of myself. The very first thought that came to mind was if another world existed on the other side. Perhaps the Blight thought the same. When humanity learned to swim and saw what lay under the surface with their own eyes, they abandoned all of their romantic fantasies of the world beneath the waves. If there comes a day when we delve into the Blight and Etherside, I pray the truth will not shatter these small, mundane fantasies I have about them.
I was thinking about the depths of the water as like what you see as reality is only like what you see on the surface, you know?
Right.
And then when you look at the blight, you see all of these things that could have existed, all the unknowns in the depths of the ocean.
Which yeah, that lines up with
That was where I started.
Yeah, that lines up with the infinite possibilities concept. In my, when we see that Perlica will be like, oh, the ether is is like anti-life and Originium is life. They're opposites. I view it more as Originium is one truth that sort of confirms life's existence, and the ether is infinite possibilities, but that's incompatible with life because life needs a very specific foundation.
I mean, statistically speaking, you need some incredible odds for life to exist anyway.
Exactly.
So, like, in the vast sea of possibility, the odds that life even pops up are pretty slim. So I could totally see a scenario where, like, that's one of the strengths of Originium, is that it assures that you anchor that possibility where life exists.
And I think that's like generally the idea of its creation, specifically for the observer problem. But I'll just say as an aside, not a single person in universe understands Ether or Originium really to that point, except maybe Priestess. Like literally in the Perlica, in the 1.4 quest, Perlica is like, I thought it was the antithesis to life or whatever it was. I forgot.
Well, but she was saying that specifically in relevance to people being able to live in the ether side when they were talking about the Foundation. We now know that the Foundation uses Protocol-Originium to sort of solidify their existence within the ether side.
Right.
That's what allows them to survive there.
There's also a timeline question in the sense of when were the exiles exiled into the ether, assumably during the First Anglo War? We know that Protocol-Originium was created pre-First Anglo War after they went into the Talos Gate because it's stated that Edmund created Protocol-Originium, assuming that's a reliable narrator, question mark. Which also begs the question, because I liked your thoughts in your video, Ash, about how the Cosmic Gate is kind of like a prototype Protocol-Originium / Ether thing.
Yeah, like a method to stabilize or anchor the ether.
Yeah, exactly. So it does make me wonder a little bit more as well about the collapsals and about the Cosmic Gate in terms of what we know of the existence of Protocol-Originium in that general timeline. I don't know if you both have any thoughts on the collapsals there.
Now,
Oh,
see, I know just enough about collapsals again to get me in trouble.
well,
So,
see, this is
I mean,
where
I'll
I
give
have
you
pulled
thoughts, but
open.
I'm gonna give thoughts later.
Yeah, I have some images here specifically for this purpose. Because the collapsals are such an interesting concept that we do not yet have much information on how they're related to ether outside of kind of assumptions based on comparisons between them. So let me open these images here. I know
I
I'm
guess let
opening a
me
lot of stuff on screen, but
while you
I'll
do that, let me
organize it.
preface. My like general take based off everything is that the collapsals are ether trying to like a primitive form of ether trying to bleed through the cosmic gates onto Terra. Where I'm confused in that sense is the Kargarike. Why are there collapsals there? What even is all that?
Mm-hmm. So this is my personal theory, and we can read through this because everything I pulled up here is specifically, it's from I literally cannot pronounce the name of the event, but it's from the Arknights event where the Witch King actually first showed up, or at least the remnants of the Witch King and the Kargarike itself. Um, and in that event, the way that the Witch King kind of describes it is the collapsals are sort of coming in from the north, from the Ethergate. And Ethergate isn't even really the word; it's Stargate is what they keep calling it. Ethergate is from the beta of Enfield, but
It's weird because like the wiki still references Ethergate all over the
yes.
place.
Yes, it
Oh
does.
yeah.
And this is why, again, the wiki is also unreliable because a lot of the time they're going to be
Well,
pulling from
wiki is
data mines, they're going to be pulling from beta information, stuff changes,
yep.
and they don't necessarily know what to use.
Yeah. No,
Uh,
100%.
and
It's just something
interpretation is
important
also
to remember.
just as relevant to the wiki as it is to the main game itself.
Oh
Um,
yeah.
but putting that aside, I mean, we know that the gate is seemingly using some form of ether in order to function. And that makes sense because there is a also, and you have this in your video, Ash. There is a lore file that specifically compares the functions of the Stargate to Protocol-Originium. So we know it's got some relevance to that somehow.
Hmm, hmm.
Um, but based on the information we know on the Kargarike and what the Witch King was doing, he was seeing an encroaching alternate reality, an encroaching dimension coming from the Stargate, kind of overlapping with real space. And he created the Kargarike. The Kargarike is not actually the name of that dimension itself. It's the name of a sort of space, a reality marble, if you will, but a space
Okay.
No.
within. But it's a space
No.
within the dimension that the collapsals seem to come from. That he has created as like a bastion, a fortress against the collapsals themselves, and that's what prevents the collapsals from just manifesting however they so please.
When you say that, do you mean like ether itself?
If we assume that the collapsal universe and the ether is the same, then yes, but that is an
Mhm.
assumption still.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I will also like to say that
Okay.
because we have the Typhon reconvener in that trailer of 1.5, I'm literally sure everything we're going to say in this pod is going to become irrelevant because they're going to expand on collapsals because of how important they are to
Right,
Typhon's
right.
story.
And for those who don't know, so we know that Typhon is going to be a future character in Infield. We don't know yet if she's a reconvener or a descendant or what. I'm assuming a reconvener. Uh, but with her coming in, Typhon has some of the largest amounts of interaction with collapsals in the original game out of any character we know. She actively uses collapsal energized, like arrows that are energized with collapsal energy to fight collapsals. Um, so, and what's even more interesting is she has some similarities to what we know ether can do to a person, where she has gaps in her memory, information that she knows she has lost because of collapsal corruption, which is, again, when you are exposed to ether residue in the air, that seemingly happens to you naturally. You have memory loss. You have essentially pieces of your memory that get wiped out, which is why long-term
Right.
exposure is really bad, because you just go brain dead.
As a
It ki
reconvener, do you think she'd have that same problem?
And that's the thing, is if she is a reconvener in Enfield, it would be very interesting to see if the effect remains the same. In her trailer, she in the trailer they showed off with the 3 new characters, her section specifically talks about missing memories, gaps of knowledge, and books that she has filled with all the records that she's been able to retain. So
but
if
also,
Go ahead.
reconveners in general seem to have incomplete memories, so it's, like, tough.
Yeah. And that's, and see, that this is the whole thing about reconveners themselves. Reconveners are manifestations from the Originium assimilated universe that have been able to reconvene into real space because of ether corruption. The prime Originium that was brought to Talos 2, one of the 3 that was on Terra, we don't know which one yet. When that got corrupted with ether energy, that seemingly allowed beings within the assimilated universe to remanifest again on their own. But that also seemingly has also damaged their data to some degree, which is why they don't necessarily manifest as themselves. They manifest as new beings who just have memories of their previous form.
I think there's also questions as to what exactly can the corrupted first Originium even generate, because, like, for some reason we have a fragment of a Beast Lord Dolly, we have the Faramut Sword of Lavitane, we have question mark maybe the collapsible bow of Tefon. What's going on there? Meh.
Yeah, and that's what's really interesting. And Ashokai, I know Beast Lords are something that you probably haven't dived into a whole lot yet, but they're their own entities that are complicated.
I have seen them,
Yeah.
and I came to that conclusion. I was like, "Oh, these are fun. Oh, these are complicated. I'm going away."
Yeah, and we can dive into that maybe later. I do have that on our list as like an optional talking point later if we have time.
I do have to be a little bit selective about my reading at times,
Right.
Oh yeah,
just
makes sense.
because time constraints and then also scope creep,
Yep.
as I'm sure you're
Absolutely.
well aware. With a universe this dense, it's so easy to get out of scope real quick.
Yep.
Makes a lot of sense.
So, really quick, let's read through some of these text boxes here. Let me see if I can zoom in there. There we go. And Ramen, and I'm thinking just for the sake of variety for the stream, maybe we can rotate between who's reading it. So Ramen, if you want to read this first one.
All of it, or is there a specific place you want me to?
I mean, I guess we can kind of skim through it and hit the most important parts, but I think this right here is sort of a explanation of kind of what the dimension that Cargarite exists in kind of appears like. And I think there's some similarities here to what we've seen of the ether side already. So I think for now, let's read through this and then talk from there.
Sure. So I think in particular, I mean the first part, Arturia sees what she has read in the Old Lich's memories, the blackness, infinite blackness, or rather chaos. I think chaos could easily have some relevance to the waveform idea of ether.
Mhm.
Obviously, we don't really know. We're running off crack theory, which you love to see. But
Bound to happen.
if the idea is this entire place, the Kargarike, is like a bastion against the ether side dimension, like this could make sense. If you go all the way down to the Witch King's spire stands in the center of the palace with the Originium crystals,
Yeah.
that is just like the bastion, the fortress. Like this is kind of like a primitive Protocol-Originium, though that's not really like actually used together. It's more like just a way to stop ether. You know what I mean?
Right, and that's kind of how I'm seeing it. Is he has created an Originium palace essentially within, if, and again we're assuming that this universe is the same thing as the ether side. Within the ether side, there's an Originium palace, and that is what he is using to sort of not only solidify his own existence, but solidify a wall against real space.
Against ether space, you mean? Or I guess either way, to be honest.
Well, yeah, it's a wall. It's an Originium wall between real space and the ether
And-
side.
Yeah.
And that's kind of how I'm reading what the Kargite actually is here.
I feel like it's worth saying that the idea is to protect against collapsal incursions into Terra. I will say, in terms of if we're going back to Enfield's greater plot, it feels like if we go to what Rossi said about spinning up the Aurora, assuming everything Rossi said is real now because of the Talos 5 stuff. Okay.
That was fun to find out.
That was really funny. I'm not gonna lie. My mind was blown.
Like, I was playing 1.4 and they mentioned, the moment that Neferith mentioned Talos 5, I immediately was like, holy shit, Rossi was right. Oh my god.
Rossi's the smartest character in Arknights Endfield.
And that is why Rossi is best girl.
Agreed.
Exactly.
Agreed.
But if the idea is to protect Terra from ether incursion, and then is the idea that the Endman shut off the cosmic gate if the Endman was the one to do it, to protect against ether incursion in general to Terra still? Like, is that still the goal? Because like my two interpretations was either ether incursion or cut off the observers, because the Talos 2 doesn't necessarily have a star pod, but it has an Aurora now because the Endman, I guess, made one.
Mm-hmm.
Like, where are we going?
Well, and that's the thing. The star pod's interesting because the star pod that is on Terra, we don't fully understand how it functions. Because it's precursor technology, no one fully understands how it functions.
I have a theory, but it's like baseless and crack, kind of. But I have
Hit
a
us with
theory.
it.
Yeah, go for it. That's what we're here for.
All right. I'm going to preface this by saying I just finished. So at the same time, I got to write about quantum wave theory for Enfield. I'm also writing about stellar blackbody radiation for Genshin.
I have seen that. Yep.
What is happening in Genshin?
We went to the moon.
Oh, good.
But the thing is like, so the star pod is kind of a similar conceptually to the firmament in Genshin, and I'm not going to make any other connections to them besides that.
Mm-hmm.
But something that was interesting to me is that the stellar not stellar black body, just black bodies and the studying of their radiation was kind of like foundational for the initial studies of quantum mechanics in general. And I thought that was really interesting with regards to the star pod and or potentially the ether side being related to quantum field theory, because a black body can actually have a sort of camouflage aspect to it for because like a black body absorbs infinite amounts of electromagnetic radiation, and so it's basically invisible to forms of detection that involve electromagnetic radiation, so like radar.
Right.
So I was thinking that like black bodies also emit heat and light, and I know the aurora isn't really an emission necessarily. It's a kind of different sort of phenomenon, but I was sort of thinking about those lines and how they could potentially connect eventually.
Mm-hmm.
Because being able to have like this light-based barrier that obscures you from being seen from an observer, because I'm assuming, observer is referencing the idea of sight watching, that kind of stuff, but
Right.
who knows?
That's one of the
I
few
feel like
things
the
we
lines-
do know about them, is that they were actively
Yeah.
looking for these planets.
Right, and so I was thinking about it in terms of that. That's as far as my crack goes and the baselessness goes, but I'm just wondering that if Arknights in general seems to have like a really grounded in science style to their world building.
They try.
So not gonna be perfect. We're still in a fantasy zone, right?
Right,
We've
right,
got
of course.
vampires and werewolves and magic cancer rocks. But the point is they try to sort of ground things in believable physics. So I was
Mhm.
wondering if maybe they might be trying to do something along that route, creating some sort of field-like barrier that obscures them from view from the outside.
And I think that's not a bad theory in any capacity. Because because we know that the Aurora has similar qualities. They've said that outright in game in the archive files that the Aurora on Talos 2 has a similar quality to the Star Pod. It's just not covering the entire planet like the Star Pod was.
Yeah.
If that is the case, and it is, and we know that the Aurora is using ether to make that happen to some degree, then I think it's entirely possible that what you're saying is a thing, and what has just sort of manifested in my mind and now distracting me from what I was originally going to say is, what if it is ether, sort of like a solidified form of ether that is then using infinite possibilities to essentially hide from observers,
Oh, it could.
Oh,
where
Just having
you're
it be straight up ether, yeah.
yeah, have it be straight up ether, and you are essentially randomizing what it appears to be so that no observer is able to actually figure out what is there.
waveform. I mean, I kind of like it. I have a question. Is the star? Do we know if the star pod's made of Originium or not?
It is not.
It is not. Do we know what it's made out of at all?
We do not. It literally, no one knows what it's made out of. What we do know is that it takes an enormous amount of energy to punch a hole through it, and that hole gets repaired
Kristen?
over the course of a couple months.
Right.
And it's pretty.
I do like the idea of ether being a solution against the observers. It does make me question a little bit. Was ether a natural occurrence, or is it a similar project like Originium was for the precursors? I have no idea.
Yeah, I don't think we'll have any idea for a long while.
Yeah. Because if it
Yeah,
is a
that's super
precursor
something that'll
project.
be a reveal way later.
Oh yeah. Because if it is a precursor project though, it's like, why not take it onto Terra? Unless you're just strictly like keeping everything compartmentalized. Originium planet, Aether
Well,
planet.
I
I don't
mean,
know.
maybe they did. It's not like
Yeah.
we fully explored Terra. The
Well,
the
and
interesting thing is, like, when we were talking to Alecrius, right?
yeah,
Mhm.
Um, he kept saying Terra, not Talos.
correct. And
Yeah.
actually, if we're gonna dive into that really quick, we're kind of jumping around here. That's fine.
That's how it
It's
rolls.
better this way.
That's how it is. So Alecrios's discussion with the Inman solidified something in my mind about where we're kind of going with the story. Specifically, I believe the goal of the precursors, and this is kind of what M3 says at the end of 1.4 as well to some degree, is they want to enslave the people of Terra, the people who migrated. But I think that applies to all of Terra. They want access to the entire world. Um, and when you think about it from that sense, the person who shut down the Ethergate most likely was Inmin to prevent them from getting there. And they
Yeah.
probably want a combination of both the Originium that's there and the people that are there, because as far as they're concerned, they are lower life forms. Most of the Foundation, assuming that they are precursors, or at least precursor lights, precursor descendants in some capacity, they are going to look at the people of Terra and go, you are essentially our creations. You are the things that we created via Originium forced evolution.
Mm-hmm.
And that makes you our property.
Well,
Mhm.
And I think that's kind of where they're taking it, and that's why it was ultimately decided, hey, we don't want that. We're going to shut this down. We're going to prevent them from being able to get there. At least that was the Inman's
I mean, it
decision.
would it would explain how and why and like the nature of the disagreement between the Endmen and the Foundation.
I agree.
Mhm.
I'll also say that, I mean, it depends on how Arknights itself ends. Fucking forever game, I guess. Uh,
That's why
but
you
I have a
stopped
theory
the
on that
connection.
we'll get to later as well.
ass-
Oh boy.
assu- assumably, the doctor slash oracle and priestess, maybe not necessarily handshake, but there's some kind of like compromise solution, whatever. However that ends, and then that ends with Terra being this unified sphere, this unified faction. They move on to Talos 2, and then it's just Terra versus Foundation, and hence how that's painted by Alecrios.
Right. And speaking of Electrios, there's something else that you mentioned in your video, Ash. I'm going to shift over to.
Did you notice he has Blightshade tentacles? I only noticed that after I was reviewing the final draft of the video. I was like, I'm
So
not
he's
adding this
got
in,
tentacles, yes. But he's got something else that I think is worth bringing up. Because those tentacles
Swag?
don't necessarily need. Well, yes, he has swag. This is true.
That's a given, though.
Wasn't serious.
Those tentacles don't necessarily need to be viewed as like Blightshade tentacles per se. I think they could also be linked to the thing that is most likely actually controlling the Agaloy. Because you mentioned something about how like the Agaloy have halos and the halos kind of look like Originium.
They do.
How much have you looked into PCS? Personality Cognitive Synchronization.
Is that the AI that protects the precursor sarcophagi thingy?
No.
Then I don't remember.
Okay. So
I might remember, but like I'm severely really bad with names.
you're fine.
It has
Trying
to
to
do with the
just, like-
Sancta.
It specifically has to
trying
do
to
with the
emphasize,
Sancta, right?
Oh, okay. In that case, probably not, because I haven't bothered looking into the Sancta very much, because every time I hear people talk about it, they're always like, the law! And I'm like, I'm not going there. Not right now, I'm not.
Let me.
That's for later.
You know what? This is where we're
Later
going to
me.
open up the story reader. If you guys have not used the AKGCC GitHub, the story reader for Arknights, it is incredible. Everyone should know how to use this thing because it's awesome.
I heard there's a new story reader, which is like that simulates the actual game in terms of like the VN style.
You are
Arknights
making
or
me aware of
Enfield?
it, so I'm
For
going to have
Arknights.
to find out about that.
Oh, okay.
All right. So, the thing about PCS. So, PCS is what the precursors called this computer system, essentially. And you know what? I should pull up an image of PCS here as well. And the Sancta call it the law. This is what it looks like.
Okay.
The law is essentially so this was discovered by the TCAS millennia before the actual game of Arknights begins, and this is like a depiction right here of the TCAS discovering it. And upon discovering it, a group of TCAS decides to give up their like racial traits in trade for their angelic ones. And that is the origin of the Sancta. They are, in fact, TCAS that were quote unquote blessed by what they viewed as a god, which was just the law, this computer system.
So this is the one ring to rule them all, then.
Let's go with that.
We'll go with that. We'll go with that.
No, I get it.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
gotcha.
The specifics of like how it works, we didn't really understand too much about the law until a more recent event in Arknights began called Masses Travels. What we knew before that point was that the law gave Sancta their halos and wings upon basically having their, like, the moment that a newborn child of Sancta origin spoke their first word, the law would manifest a halo on them, and then the wings would usually come later. What those halos and wings do is allow them to connect with others who also have a halo and sort of get emotional feedback from each other. They're able to communicate telepathically, but via emotion only. And what's even more interesting is as we learned more and more about it, when Priestess finally manifested and started talking to us more regularly, she explained that the purpose of the law, the purpose of PCS, was actually to allow free communication between peoples regardless of language barrier. And so the version... Go ahead, sorry.
Can you put the computer back on screen? Because
All right.
I pulled it up on my view, and I forgot to turn on the window in OBS, and so no one else saw it.
Oh, okay. well, here it is, yeah. So essentially what Priestess is like educating us about the law is its original purpose as a personality cognitive synchronization machine was to allow different races who maybe couldn't physically speak the same language or just generally had language barriers overall, and they could communicate telepathically directly with nothing inhibiting them from communicating with others. And it is what let the precursors basically have free, like, they were able to peacefully sort of assimilate, or not assimilate is probably not the right word, but they were able to peacefully coexist with other races throughout the galaxy. That is how Priestess explains it, at least. Now, what's interesting is in the story of Mass's Travels, she actively corrupts the PCS program that the Sancta originated from, and she corrupts it with a directive to essentially, like, force all of humankind to coexist. Like, and as part of that, basically force them to mind meld in a way, so that they would all coexist as one group. Right.
Not the hive mind, no!
Now, thanks to
I'm traumatized by human instrumentality.
All roads lead to Evangelion.
All roads lead to Evangelion. It's true. And it's interesting because Evangelion also deals with angels and similar elements. But essentially, thanks to Frederico and Andonain within the story of Mass's Travels, they managed to shut down PCS and prevent it from doing this. But that is mostly because the law itself, as a machine, it's just trying to follow directives, but Priestess's directive conflicts with the directive that it was originally given by the TCAS. So at some point, it accepts a new command, a new directive to just shut down and let people decide for themselves. But in doing so, it also is communicating with Anduin here via this Arbor Beast, which is basically that's the PCS sort of like trying to present itself in Anduin's mind as just like, again, an ability to communicate directly to him. And it actually explains something that I think is really important to bring up, and I wish I had remembered to take a screenshot of this in advance because I don't have it on me. Where is it? Yeah, this is
Do you remember what it's about?
it. So it specifically, it explains itself as being one of its goals, one of its creations of the past, are effectively rocks. It took completely non-sentient objects and gave them sentience via the PCS program. And
that does sound like Agaloy, doesn't it?
Those rocks formed halos and essentially became creatures that were unthinking, but capable of living, quote unquote.
I think that it's blatantly said that the Angeloi and the Anchors were created by the Foundation are precursor dregs, and the PCS is a precursor project. So I think it's pretty evident that the Angeloi are the product of a PCS, and the Mass's Travel ends with, I think, a piece of the PCS just flying off into space or something. Am I right or wrong, Draknus?
Yes. So at the very end of that storyline, yeah, a piece of PCS managed to sort of separate from the whole, and it flew through the remnants of the hole that was blown into the star pod and went to space, and supposedly was able to communicate with something out there.
Oh, from what I remember, I thought it called out to other precursors, but nothing responded.
That's right. Sorry, you are correct. It called out to other it tried to call out and got no response.
Which is also concerning.
Yes.
Because maybe something else. I don't know.
Well, and if you
Dark Forest.
If you've ever heard of Dark Forest theory, yeah,
the
Dark Forest theory kind of makes you wonder, hey, was it calling out possibly the beginning of us like connecting to Talos 2/5?
I will say I'm a little confused. It could be a separate PCS entirely, but that if it's that piece of the PCS, how does it end up on Talos 2? It'd have to go through the Cosmic Gate. From what I remember from a weapon file, the two star charts of Talos 2 and Terra were compared, and they determined that the planets are nowhere near each other. So,
Right. I mean, they exist in a solar system. I think all the Talos numbers are floating around the same gas giant, but it's still a
yeah.
gas giant. There's a huge amount of space between each moon.
Mm.
So here's the actual directives that PCS received. So originally it received the wish to continue, which I believe was originally the command given to it by the precursors when the precursors went to sleep on Terra. They went into their sarcophagi. They gave it the command to continue, so continue operating. It then got the wish to survive, which was the wish from the original TCAS. They wanted to continue living rather than continuing to suffer as they were on Terra. And then, and in order to succeed on that, it created itself as a god, as the law, and created Laterano, the city-state that effectively it was the center of. And then it received the wish for angels, which was the wish that Priestess commanded it to proceed with. And the problem with angels is the previous definition of angels was essentially what we can kind of determine to be Agaloy. And I'm trying to, you know what? There's an easier way I can do this.
Are you looking for a picture of it right now?
Well, I can go to Masses Travels in the wiki here, and they have a lovely little gallery section of every single art piece from the storyline.
Love this wiki.
Here's the moment. So here you have a bunch of crystals and rocks with halos forming above them. And this is when the PCS is essentially explaining to Anduin,
Yeah.
hey, like this is the definition of an angel as far as PCS is concerned.
If that ain't explicit.
So this is why I am of the opinion, and funnily enough, in universe, the Cabal of Tranquility is also of the same opinion, that there's gotta be a PCS on Talos 2 that is controlling the Agaloy. But what is it, Ash?
I did it again. I brought up the screen for me and then did not turn it on. This is gonna become an ongoing thing. I'm sorry.
Unlucky.
You're good. Look, no podcast is without scuff. That's part of the charm of it.
Oh, I know. Just anyway, you can see it now.
I have Jibby in my chat going like, this is why I'm in both streams. So, and Akka, who's the wonderful lead of Terra Story and who's also sitting in my chat right now, also would like to mention that Agaloy means messenger. I don't know what language that is, but apparently we do know that much.
Well, no, I mean Agaloy. Well, Agalos is literally means angel. It's the same root word. And angel
Okay.
means messenger. So it's like that's where it is. They're literally called angels. Like just straight up.
Yeah. So yeah, so it all kind of just makes sense at that point.
In light of that though, it the like I guess in that case are the water ones in Wuling not consider Agaloy at all?
So you mentioned something interesting actually about in your last video, which was
stumbling into interesting things on accident.
Yeah, the ether side is absorbing matter and then spits that matter back out, having been corrupted. I think that's what the Agaloy actually are. Because you also see in 1.2 when the blight is sort of like encroaching onto the Wuling city, it's sort of the blight gets into the city, breaks through the barrier of Zeronite gas, and then it begins to form into Agaloy. And we know that the blight is essentially water that has been corrupted by ether. So at that point, it starts to make sense that it's possible that the blight, or just like ether infused matter, is being then given control and sentience by a PCS. And it's the combination of the two that is creating the Agaloy.
That's interesting. So in other words, the system would basically operate like the blight naturally absorbs a bunch of stuff from this side. And then there's some PCS that basically reverses the process.
And that's what we don't know. I'm not sure.
No, I'm saying in the context of your theory. Just to make sure I got it.
Well, okay, and I guess then I don't fully understand what you were asking, because reverse the
Oh, okay.
process.
Well, okay. Let me put it this way.
Mhm.
If you suck up a bunch of water with a shop vac,
Mhm.
you got to get the water out somewhere. You know, the tank gets full.
Right.
So if you have a PCS that basically like opens small rifts to the ether side and then basically takes that matter and funnels it back to real space, but like with an adjustment.
Right. That's kind of how I view it.
Yeah.
And I don't even think it's necessarily something that is being decided upon. I think that's just kind of the nature of the ether side. It doesn't retain matter. It is instead it's an information. It's a universe of pure information, and it has a limited capacity for matter from real space. So it has to spit all that back out.
What about Talos
The
5?
I'm trying to like figure out why does this keep doing that?
Yeah, and Talos 5 is
I
a
was
whole
trying to,
the other thing. I don't even know where to begin with that.
well, I was trying to figure out where in the sort of formula, I guess, the PCS kind of fits in because like I'm not sure if the formation of Angaloi into this space is technically how do I put this? Automated?
So that's what's interesting. So I think PCS is given a directive. It can then enact that directive remotely. It doesn't need to be present for it to actually manipulate something. It just has a certain domain over a certain amount of space. So if there's a PCS on Talos 2 that is being controlled by either an automated program or by a like dedicated foundation member who's sort of manipulating it, uh, it is going to say it is basically going to take any matter that is being directed to it or that is like of a sufficient quality of some unknown type and is just giving that matter a form, giving that matter a halo. And
I
we
see.
and we know that it can do automation because after the PCS that was on Terra got shut down, the actual act of Sancta gaining halos and continuing to sort of exist as they were, that continues. The system is automated still.
Okay.
So PCS doesn't need to be actively doing anything for that particular program to keep running.
I see.
Was one of the conclusions that we got from that theory that not PCS related, but that the ether can't hold stuff? Is that what you said? Or matter?
See, that's what's weird is it appears, and this came from an archive piece as well. I just don't remember which one. But it appears that the ether will consume matter, but it is never retaining that matter forever. It is always spitting it back out somewhere, which is also why in Valley 4 you'll see
Somewhere.
like large chunks of matter that sort of like see like very unnatural formations where it looks like something has just sort of cleaved pieces of
see.
rock away, but then that rock will appear somewhere else, either like floating or just kind of like just sort of being in an unnatural formation elsewhere on the map.
It probably doesn't even have to spit it out on planet or on Talos 2 as well. I'm trying to think of where Talos 5 went.
Right. Yeah.
If we're saying that it can't be stuck within the ether side, that would be the question. I want to bring up one more thing.
Mhm.
I did not fact check this, but a Chinese chatter commented on a video that if you translate the JP and CN script of the Alacrios boss theme, Foundation seems to be it is an organization, but it also seems to be referential of a location slash building. So the Foundation will probably be a place we go to rather than it just being a group of people.
Right.
I don't know.
I would believe that, because I also, similar to how, and this is where like the whole Kargerreich thing was coming in, I was going to make a case that the Kargerreich is going to be in a similar way that the Foundation is existing. You have an Originium
That's neat.
construct that the Foundation is living inside of within the Ether side.
In which case, it would make sense for it to be on Talos 5.
Right.
Yeah.
And maybe Talos 5 is staying in the Ether side because it is like encapsulated with Originium in some way.
It would make sense why Neferith would want to go there. I feel like I should have prefaced this whole thing by saying this is going to be a spoilery thing, but I guess people should know that.
Yeah, if we're talking lore, I specifically labeled mine as 1.4 lore theories and discussion. So if people haven't played 1.4 yet and also haven't played Arknights, I think they should know what they're getting into.
I didn't, but that's okay.
Oops. It is what it is.
And Jibby, in my chat, yes, if you've played Gilberta's side story in Arknights Endfield, that is explicitly why there's floating rocks. She even explains that, yeah, the floating rocks are material from that was absorbed into the ether side and then spat back out, and because it's infused with ether, it doesn't follow the same laws of physics, but as the ether effects on that material wears away, gravity will start affecting it again.
I forgot all about that.
Same. Bad quest, so I was lucky.
It wasn't bad, but like, I didn't seem relevant at the time.
You'd be surprised how much of
That's
Gilberta's
how it
quest was
goes.
relevant.
Yeah, it keeps popping back up.
At that point.
There's
I should
also
revisit it. I haven't done it in a while.
Yeah, there's also basically through Gilberta's quest, there's also like a scientist who leaves behind a whole bunch of pieces of paper that you can pick up, and that scientist is essentially explaining that she is actively undergoing the process of mental degradation from being afflicted with ether poisoning.
Rest in peace, lady.
If you want another example of that, the weapon file for the weapon Phantom Pain is literally all about a person going through mental degradation. It's literally the entire thing from start to end when they die.
See, this is why I have Ramen, because he's read literally all the weapons and I have not.
Every file is in my brain somewhere.
But that's why lore is a collaborative sport.
Exactly.
True.
And no, I won't change my word choice. Sport is correct.
It's an esport in a way.
It's an esport.
Exactly.
Excellent.
We should do esport. We should do lore esports.
That'd be really funny. At that point, it's just like
funny.
a Jeopardy.
Yeah, it's like a Jeopardy game.
Oh yeah.
Oh man, you just gave
that
me.
Sounds fun.
You gave me a great content idea. That would be awesome.
Go nuts.
I had one written out and planned out for Anime Expo. I just didn't actually do it because the vibes weren't right. But I had a board and everything.
No, you should make some really tough questions and then bring on some complete noobs to the game.
Like me.
Yeah.
So we've talked now a fair bit about PCS, the law, Agaloy, Kargerreich. I'm going to close these because I think we've had a good discussion about Kargerreich. Let's move on here to another topic. Let's see. So, moving to the video that I found you for, Ash, Car and Camille. And of course, I accidentally broke Ramen's camera again.
Yay. I deserve it.
Okay.
See if I can pull up. Here it is.
We talking blood of TCAS type shit?
That is exactly what we're talking about here.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't want to go down that route on my own. That seemed like a terrible idea.
That's why we're here. First thing, could you bring up the reason why I want to go through this file exactly?
This file right here.
This is why I was very hyper fixated when I was going through my own Camille theories on the Blood of Tikaz and the Crown of Thorns, because they explicitly bring it up as a file right next to Camille in that little room.
Yeah.
When they bring up Decurial and Donzo and the Blooded T-Cast, it feels relevant. One thing I want to bring up regarding the prophecy is that from what okay, correct me if I'm wrong, Draknus, because I'm also kind of guessing based off pieces. Cyclops prophecies are based off of the collective history of the Sarkaz because it's an Originium arts based off of what's recorded in the assimilated universe, right?
That is the understanding that we get from that is the understanding that we get from kal'tsit in episode 7. Yes.
So my understanding from that is that the prophecy of Camille and Char killing each other essentially is reflective of the past of Decurial and Donzo, because that's sort of like the baseline the Cyclops prediction is coming from. That's not necessarily saying that it's true, but if it's based off of the past, that's just what the prophecy, makes.
Yep.
Well, and see, this is where I think it gets a lot more complicated because
Mhm.
that is not the only kind of prophecy.
Right.
And I was digging into this quite a bit earlier. Oh, let me pull these up now.
Oh, yay, everywhere.
So this is the episode 7 dialogue from kal'tsit. Zoom in here, put that away. All right. So this is right after we defeat the why am I blanking on the race?
Patriot?
That Patriot is Wendigo. So the last true Wendigo Patriot, we defeat him, and as we're defeating him, kal'tsit has some words to say because Patriot kind of goes into this crazy rant where he starts to sort of see into the future, or at least he believes he's seeing into the future, and he sees a prophecy. And so kal'tsit begins to dive into this, where she says the Sarkaz prophecy is born out of their collective racial memory. Originium energy bursts, popping in areas with high concentrations. The core city that we are in suffered a catastrophe recently. They created an altar. Buldrakus T, which is Patriot's real name, is basically like connecting dots and going, he's a Wendigo. Omnia is the current Lord of Fiends. Kal'tsit starts to connect, hey, this is having a direct effect on him. The last of the ancient Wendigo bloodline is directed connectly to the entire Sarkaz race. This prophecy, and she starts to like put things together before she can really like explain what it is she's thinking. And then as he starts to go in, so his words specifically are, I see cities devastated. I see Originium blanketing the land. I see you, Amia, black crown on your head, melting millions of lives into nothing but memories, which we can assume is the act of Originium assimilation.
Yeah.
I see the King of Sarkaz enslaving all peoples everywhere.
That sounds like
She says, Patriot, don't believe this prophecy. It's just a psychological side effect of Originium arts. But I know all prophecies come true. I died at the hands of the King of Sarkaz. And so later, after that occurs, she then dives into more about it. The Sarkaz people have a long history with Originium. Their memories mix with Originium and become one with the land, returning to their own bodies. Sometimes certain tribes that have long passed down these Originium crystals will gather the information in one place. Through the continuous use of arts, this information, mixed together unexpectedly, manifests in different ways. Most of these messages are lost to time, their contents jumbled or outdated. There is no basis for these prophecies themselves. But they do directly affect other people, like someone hears the prophecies and then will try to fulfill them. I can't tell if these ideals are just vague whispers or seeds that can bloom into reality. And that's kind of where that thought ends.
that last kal'tsit one is kind of where I'm at in terms of Donzo and Decurial / Char and Camille.
Right. And that's where the potential for the Char and Camille prophecy being tied to this sort of like shared information gathering via Originium, which I view as like they're collecting the shared history of their race within Originium, within an assimilated universe. And then that is what then is kind of like forecasting the future. It's not that the prophecy is actually rooted in stone. It's not for sure going to happen, but people believe it will happen because they view it as a prophecy. And so it ends up fulfilling itself via that mindset.
That's why I think you're right, Ash, in that I don't really think that Char is actually going to kill Camille or anything. I think that, if anything, Char's trying to either break the prophecy that may or may not even be real. Who knows?
Well, I'm
Well, I mean,
curious.
he explicitly said that.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
So I mean,
that's
I think that part is pretty solid just
Mhm.
because he said it. So I would assume that like unless things go really wrong and like they go for a tragic ending where he ends up doing it on accident, but I don't think they'll kill off Camille.
right.
I don't think so either.
I don't think so either. But there's
And my reasoning has nothing to do with lore either. I just don't think they'll do it. Just
well,
from a
No.
marketing perspective, I don't think they do it.
well, and this is where like people love to talk about Arknights and be like, "Oh, they're not afraid to kill off characters." No, they are. If
Yeah.
you have a playable character, they generally avoid killing them off. There's only one case where they did just go ahead and do it. And massive spoilers for those who have not gotten to the third arc of the game. But kal'tsit did eat it in chapter 15. Now, but kal'tsit's also a unique case. And Kismet, if you tell me who the second one is, maybe I'll remember, but I don't remember.
I think I know who they're talking about, but it's a CN spoiler.
Yeah, that's a CN spoiler. I do not spoil myself on CN content, so I would not know that. But kal'tsit eats it. She does eventually come back, but it is technically a new version of her. And again, that's also CN spoiler, so I don't know the entirety of the reasoning how that happens, but I do know like some bits of it. But the main thing about kal'tsit's death is she's unique because she always comes back from death. With the last death that she had being a little bit more unique because it was technically direct atomization or assimilation.
Priestess Blast.
Yeah. Priestess essentially decided, hey, you're going to be assimilated into the AU and just dusted her. But technically, the way that kal'tsit usually works is she is an artificial being who always, whenever her main body dies beyond repair, she will always come back via monster. Monster is basically a symbiotic organism. Monster is a part of kal'tsit. And when kal'tsit's body dies, her memories and mind get copied into monster, and then monster sort of metamorphosizes into a form that is either similar or almost exactly the same as kal'tsit as she was. And that is how kal'tsit has managed to live for 13,000 years. Hopefully none of this is new to you, Ash, but stop me if this is confusing.
I'm learning.
Yeah.
I don't know what else you want me to say besides that, but like, no, I am absorbing.
Okay.
The only other case I think of this in non-CN is Nakras, like my chat just said, because she kind of died and then revived herself, I guess.
Yeah, but she also wasn't playable until after she revived herself.
Yeah, that's true.
So I think the theory still stands with her for the main part, or most part.
Regardless, let's see.
And for
go ahead.
Kismet in my chat really quick. So kal'tsit Esperanta, which is the name of like kal'tsit after she came back, is different from monster. And the reason for that is because in chapter 15, kal'tsit had to separate herself from her connection with monster in order to sort of trick priestess temporarily within that story. Which is why the monster that we get is not kal'tsit. It is instead her own person. She has a lot of kal'tsit's memories, but monster becomes her own being at that point.
Assumably still has like that sort of immortal iterative being, question mark.
Right.
And
And this
that's
is also why we think that M3 is monster, but not necessarily kal'tsit.
Yes, agreed. I do want to try and get us back on topic with Char and Camille.
Right.
So we talked a lot about Donzo and Decurial a bit. I guess the abridged is that Decurial betrayed Donzo because there's a general prophecy throughout the Sarkaz of, you, King of Sarkaz, will always be betrayed by who is closest to you. And that, I think, is the prophecy that is getting gleamed here alongside of the history of Donzo and Decurial. You know more about this, Draknus?
So in Terra A Journey, this is actually something from the lore book mainly. In Terra A Journey, it is explained that amongst the first several lords of Sarkaz, the Lord of Tikaz, King of Sarkaz, whatever you would end up wanting to call them, amongst them so you had Farchaser. He was the very first. Farchaser was also known as being the one who created Oripathy. He created catastrophes. They didn't Originium did not necessarily work the way that we understand it until he changed the law. He changed the rules of how Originium operates. We'll get into that more as well later, I'm sure, because there's a whole explanation on how that actually occurs. And after he died, the crown, the Black Crown, Civilite Eterna, which is another precursor artifact, got passed on to other Sarkaz over time. Amongst those Sarkaz was a Diablo, known as I'm blanking on his name.
Is that Balasaka or is that
Balasaka, thank you. Balasaka was a Diablo Sarkaz who got a hold of the crown. I believe he was technically the third king of Sarkaz, and basically in a battle with his best friend, who also became the fourth lord of Sarkaz after him, proceeded to curse, and it's confusing because the Chinese translation and the English translation differ slightly here, because the English translation kind of makes it sound like, oh, he's just cursing him out. He's just going, oh, screw you, man. I'm tired of this. But in the Chinese translation, it ends up sounding more like an actual curse of lineage. Like, all kings of Sarkaz in the future will now be betrayed. And that's kind of how it ends up kind of getting worded. But again, it's vague, it's nebulous. But that is also why after the third king of Sarkaz, almost every single king of Sarkaz or lord of Sarkaz that we see or have any information on after that point, they all get betrayed. That is their ending, is they all die because of betrayal. As for and how this applies to Camille, Decurial and Danzo. Danzo was a lord of Sarkaz who also had the blood of Tikaz. The blood of Tikaz is seemingly its own thing. We'll get to that. And Decurial was his brother and betrayed him because he viewed Danzo as weak. Now Decurial did not inherit the crown. The crown then got passed on to someone else, but he did inherit the blood of Tikaz. The reason the blood of Tikaz matters, let me see if I can find the moment. Here, is this the one? No.
It's when he's falling.
It's the one where he's falling. Here it is. The reason the blood of Tikaz matters is because, if you notice, Decurial has this crown of thorny blood looking thing above his head. Now, a lot of people will be like, oh, that's just a vampire thing. No. There is no other vampire other than Decurial and now Camille and Char who have these blood thorn crowns above their head. Those are the only ones.
We have 3 playable vampires in the OG Arknights. None of them have this.
Right. And
one of them's pretty high profile, right? Warfarn?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, and yes, Chibi, Char did also have one. We saw that in a flashback that both kids
It was blue for some reason.
The reason that is a thing is because it is highly likely. Let me pull up the Quistartage segments. Where did
This is where it gets freaky.
this
There's
is
a
yeah, this is where things
organization
get
called the
crazy.
Connoisseurs. I don't know if you've ever gone through them.
Do I have the same one open twice? No, I just didn't have that page open.
Probably.
All right.
Oh,
So, yeah, quick
Not me.
recap of who the Confessarius are. The Confessarius is an organization of Sarkaz, seemingly mixed blood or their own unique line. It's hard to say. It's not really fully explained. But they are led by a person known as Quisatushtaj. Quisatushtaj, and I think it's actually pronounced Quisatushtai. I've had so many conversations about how this is pronounced, and I never remember. But I'm going to say Quisatushtai. Quisatushtai is the only living, quote unquote, living Lord of Fiends from the past, who is not currently a Lord of Fiends. And it is well known that he wants the crown, the Civilite Eterna again. He wants to take
usurp
it back.
it.
He wants to usurp it. And in chapter 14, he has a ritual that he tries to perform where he almost succeeds. And in order to perform that ritual, he takes the blood of Tikaz, which was given to him by Decariel, by the Sanguinarch, who again is the same person who took the blood of Tikaz from his brother Danzo, as mentioned in Camille's quest. Decariel gives Quisatushtai the blood of Tikaz, and then the blood of Tikaz forms in his palm as a small crown of thorns, as impenetrable as the darkest night. And that blood of that crown of thorns is explicitly what he is using in order to attempt to usurp the Black Crown, the Civilite Eterna. And again, the only people who seemingly have that crown is Decariel himself and now Camille and Char, who seem to be very similar in terms of both appearance and kind of like storytelling from the prophecy as Danzo and Decariel.
Can you explain the bloodline thing in terms of the Confessarius?
Yeah,
So
yeah.
that
This is where things get kind of
Yeah.
really confusing, and it's hard to keep things straight. And I don't think I didn't like pull up this specifically, but I'll just explain it. Quisatushtai, the way that he has lived this long, is not by keeping his own body. He has an arts ritual that he performs where he passes his mind and soul onwards to the bodies of his own children. And he has done that through multiple generations. The body that we see him in chapter 14 is actually the body of, I believe it's like his great-great-grandson, who is also the brother of Shining, who's a operator in a playable operator. Shining is literally both the daughter and the sister of Quisatushtai.
which is freaky.
It's freaky. And the fact that he has this ability to pass his memories and soul down his own bloodline, and the fact that he's also the last known person to have the blood of Tikaz, or the Crown of Thorns, whichever one you want to call it, is also why there's a very decent chance, in my mind, that that is the origin of the prophecy. The prophecy in Endfield is something that he created in order to try and usurp the Black Crown, which is why the prophecy specifically says that the brother who wins is also going to invade Seska and basically like take it over or destroy it.
It's kind of why I'm of the mind that Camille and Char's freak of a mother is a Confessarius, knows the prophecy, does not have a crown of thorns, but Camille and Char have a crown of thorns. They've implanted the blood of Tikaz onto both of them. Char ends up being the imperfect vessel, and Camille's the perfect vessel, so they kind of ignore Char, because that's kind of how they always treat imperfect vessels, somewhat. And that also is the same reason why I think Civilite Eterna, for whatever reason, is currently on Talos 2.
What are your thoughts, Ash? I know we're probably overwhelming you with information.
Have an essay! Give me your book report.
500 words, stat. I don't know that that changes much of what I was of my understanding of the quest, to be honest.
I don't
The
think
motivations are this probably similar
Yeah.
to what you think. It's just how you get to this point, I guess.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean, that fills in a lot of blanks. Because I do remember reading a lot about the Crown of Thorns and such, but I was also, in that position where, I'm not gonna touch this.
Yeah.
This is
So
the most annoying and verbose part, so that is very fair.
Yeah, it is. Trying to piece this together. I pieced all of this together live on stream with Ramen after I finished the Camille quest, and I'll be honest with you, it took like 3 to 4 hours of just going through the lore book and going through all the different chapters and trying to find all the lines of dialogue that actually
you guys have
made this work.
and you guys have context. That's pretty.
It was an
Imagine what it's
ordeal.
like for me. Like, what is
Oh,
this?
yeah.
What is this? What is this? What is this? What is this? I don't know.
Right. And the reason I wanted to even bring this up at all, actually, is because I think this plays into what I think the future of the storyline for Seska is going to be.
Oh?
I believe, again, this is where like theory starts to play in, but it's like, again, who had the Crown of Thorns last? We know that Kwisatz-Tai is still alive in the story of Arknights currently because he escaped with his life in chapter 14. And he escaped with the blood of Tikaz still. So he's alive still. And there's a good chance that he will continue to pass he'll continue to do his ritual and continue to pass his mind and body down. And we also know, again, if you don't know this, here's some extra information. When races, copulate and they have a child, that child is almost always a 50-50, one race or the other, between the mother and the father. It is not a mixed blood is a thing within the Sarkaz, but you can absolutely still possess all the powers of one race, even if your mother was a different race, for instance. And that's where I'm like, it's possible that Kwisatz-Tai is the mother of Char and Camille. Not the same body, but the same mind and soul. And I'm saying this because her line of dialogue within the Camille quest is, again, she knows the prophecy is like playing out. She almost seems like she's pushing it forward. And the person that's coming for her, who's the leader of the Landbreakers again? It was
Jacob.
Yeah, Yakub. That's it, Yakub. Or is it Jacob? I don't remember now.
Yeah,
Whatever. I'm gonna say Yakub because that's what I got used
say
to.
it both ways, but I also kind of hate when they do that.
Right.
It's Jake.
It's Jacob. Damn it. But yeah, Yakub, he seemingly knew about the prophecy. He seemed like he was trying to either prevent it or sort of like fulfill it on his own. And the mother knew that he was going to come for her specifically, her and her husband specifically. Which tells me that there's a very good chance that she was responsible for setting it all up. So I'm of the opinion that Kwisatz-Tai either is her or at least has like given her, like she's carrying the legacy that Kwisatz-Tai set in place.
Another aspect I'd like to put into this is, assumably the Sami Snow Priests also had a prophecy regarding it. We don't know if it's the same prophecy. From what I remember, the Sami Snow Priest prophecy operates off of the will of Sami the Farenmut rather than the Sarkaz, meh. But the reason why they handed off the Fang of Sami to the Sarkaz is because they saw this prophecy, and in their eyes, they say, okay, the best possible future for Terra or Sami or whatever is if they have a flying city of Seshka, which is powered by Sami. We don't know why. Future, who knows? But yeah, that's just another element of looking at that from the outside.
Yep. Which Farenmutz and the Tikaz have always had an interesting relationship. Like Danzo and Dukariel, their like big claim to fame originally was that they're the ones who killed the Lifebone, which was the giant whale Farenmut. And of course, you can't kill a Farenmoot directly, but they're the ones who immobilized it and rendered it to just being a bunch of bones.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if Sami comes back to life somehow. Very much just do that, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah, there's the breakdown on. Yeah, and here's the moment where it's kind of explained. Kurtarshustai just wants more than just the crown. He too once possessed the king's power thousands of years ago. He did not manage to get the full picture, but he definitely sensed the king's power to influence others' control. The more you experience absolute power, the harder it is to resist temptation. Be it Teresa or Amia, Kurtarshustai has been watching every single king and their successors in secret for a long, long time. His obsession with power compels him to extend his life by maniacal means without hesitation, just to seize control of that power once more. So that's kal'tsit breaking it down for us.
This is a plot line that hasn't been, and I'm not sure will be, resolved in the original Arknights, so it feels like this is a carryover into Enfield.
Yes, that's what I think is going to end up happening.
Word vomit.
Yeah. Information.
I'm learning.
JM, do you think the future snowy area they showed in the stream is part of Wuling? I've had a lot of arguments online about this. We know it's north of Wuling. We already know that for sure.
There's a file that says the old Sami snow priest in the snowy forest nearby.
Yeah.
So, wherever that is.
It may not be part of Wuling specifically, but it's at least part of HAS territory, for sure.
Pretty much. I think it's also possible, I guess, that it's one of Sue's paintings because dusk powers, but that's just kinda...
I hadn't heard of that one. That's an interesting theory too. I like that.
I kind of got rage baited the other day. I finished the Wang event like you told me to do.
Yes,
and
thank you.
Somebody a long time ago when I was like theorizing about Sue said that Sue has how do you pronounce it? G? That sweet sibling, the one with the writing knife.
Yes.
That Sue has her powers, but now that I finished that event, I literally don't see it.
Yeah, no, so I don't think Sue has G's powers. So you know what? Maybe we should I should pull that.
Yeah, we're kind of going off the rails now.
That's what we've been doing. We'll probably keep doing it consistently. Let me pull up. Oh, I've got the wrong page again.
One. But from my understanding, she has Shu, Nian, and Dusk's powers. Because they're the ones who made her.
What was the name of that event again? It's
something so's. Oh yeah, we were gonna talk about it. This is on the conversation list.
Yeah, yes, it is.
Okay, there you go. There's your transition.
What a transition it was. Thank you. Where is the moment? Here it is.
That one.
Yeah. So, well, let's do this really quick before we move on. Ash, do you have any questions, comments, thoughts?
No. My head is empty.
Yeah, no, that's fair. That's the normal reaction, really.
All right. Well,
I'm just absorbing right now.
Okay.
Don't worry. You will know if I have something to add.
For sure. I also want to give you a chance because I can just go. So.
Oh, I know. I'm the same way. Don't worry about it.
We're gonna move into Sui stuff here. So, just to recap, Sui is a Farenmoot of Terra, probably considered one of, if not the most powerful Farenmoot of Terra. Ooh, I can't words. And there was so there used to be a lot of different Farenmoots on Terra, and I know it's pronounced Farenmut. I'm sorry, I'm so used to saying Farenmoot. I'm always going to result to that. But there used to be a ton of Farenmoots on Terra, and Yon, I think it was several thousand years ago. Maybe it was exactly 1,000. I don't remember the exact timeline. But Yon, the Emperor of Yon, the True Lung, as he's called, made a deal with Sui to essentially begin what he called the Great Hunt, which was a massive war and alike between mortals and the Farenmoots, where they killed off and or subjugated all the Farenmoots that existed within their territory, and then Sui essentially let himself be subjugated and locked down, and then these 12 proxies would over time start to generate from Sui's remnants. And the proxies are basically just lesser Farenmoots. They are avatars that have generated from the power of that original Farenmoot. They take on a human form usually, but it doesn't necessarily need to be human. And they possess fractions, pieces of that power of the original Farenmoot. They are not the same level of capability, but they're more powerful than a mortal, and they do live forever, seemingly. So, in the storyline of Sui that happens over the course of Arknights, which they release one new chapter for Sui every year, we've had a new sibling of the Sui proxies, a new one of that family line, kind of join Rhodes Island with each chapter. And each one of the stories focuses on one of them, but usually the storyline is like they're all slowly finding each other again, and they're all gathering together for a greater purpose. A purpose that culminates ultimately in the most recent Sui storyline with Wang. But in A People's Sows, which was I think this was 2 years ago, we
A
had
while
some
back.
of it was a bit ago. This was
I
Shu's
almost think it's
event.
3. I don't know.
Shu was this middle sibling here. And for extra relevance, each of the Sui proxies represent some form of like art form or job. Like they each kind of like pick something that they are going to specialize in. Shu specializes in farming or agriculture overall. And then you have Neon. This was the first Sui sibling we ever found. She specializes in blacksmithing. She's also weird and loves to make movies. That's a whole separate thing. But she specializes in blacksmithing. And then you have Dusk, who specializes in painting. Now, what's interesting about this is or C, she pronounces it as Su. Yeah, Su, thank you. She pronounces it as Su. Su has elements of all three of these. And in the storyline of A People Sows, when these three got together, they specifically talk about creating an artificial Farenmoot heart, which we then see actually be a thing in 1.2 of Endfield. So, as far as we're able to tell, these three succeeded in their goal of creating a Farenmoot heart, an artificial heart. And then, for whatever reason, now we see a new sibling, a 13th sibling who did not exist previously, who possesses the abilities and traits of all three of these characters. And also contain, she actually has like design elements from all three of them as well. So there's a chance that she's literally a merger or a combination of all three, or she's just literally an artificial creation that they created out of the.
I'm pretty sure it's
arts.
just artificial creation, personally.
Yeah, it's hard to say which, but it's one of those two for sure.
As an aside, I'm also pretty sure that Su is one of the 40 heroes.
I also believe that, yeah, the 40 heroes is a whole other topic, and I think we have multiple of them at this point.
Yeah. I guess move on to the relevance of this event plus Share Night and Originium.
Yes.
Or Blight, that was the one.
Well, all the above.
Also, assumably, again, just like with Tefon and the Collapsals, a lot of what we're going to say today is going to be dead fucking wrong. Because next patch, we're going to get all of Sue's stuff, including her operator file, so.
Right, yeah, I'm very good possibility that...
Oh, is she next patch?
Assumably, we don't actually know, but she's been in the promotional material since 1.2.
Yeah.
So it's like, come on now. Surely you must come soon.
She's also the only character of the three that's in the story already.
Yeah.
And just knowing how Arknights likes to work, they often will introduce a character in the story, and then that character becomes playable within a couple patches. Or they enter NPC jail for 3 years and then don't show up again for that time.
I read.
Yeah, I get that. I was gonna say, because like we've got the second half of this patch, and then there's 2 more characters that they teased
Yeah.
in the trailer. That was I don't remember their names, but Yellow Centaur dude and Purple
Yeah.
Demon
The Purple Demon,
girl.
the Purple Demon
I
girl
forgot their
is
name.
Typhon, which is the Collapsal
Right,
Link
okay.
character that we were talking about earlier.
I
I
did
will
not
also
know her. I couldn't remember her name.
yeah, fair enough. I will also say the end of 1.4 ends off with I think Sue talking about, hey, I'm gonna be back real quick to heal you of the weird ether corruption you have. So
Yeah.
assumably that's the plot of the next patch.
I would buy into that. I think that's very
Yeah.
likely.
I would assume that show might be playable in like 1.6.
I could see that. I don't think it's as far as 2.0. I think it is 1.5, 1.6.
Yeah, agreed.
How
I mean,
long the patch cycles are for Endfield? Like, will we go to 1.7 or 1.8, do you think, or no?
I mean, we don't know. It's
I,
we literally don't know what the patch cycles are going to be like yet. Still,
yeah, that's kind of a business decision. Like, that I could easily see them dragging it out so that 2.0 is the anniversary. You know what I mean? I'd rather they not do that,
Oh,
but
yeah,
yeah.
I could see that.
I I have theories about where the story's going to go, but like how long they're going to like take to reach these new storylines and move to the next cities. I
yeah.
just there's no way for me
Yeah,
to know until they start creating a pattern. Like it's easy in
fair enough.
normal Arknights because we know what the pattern is. They've had a pattern that they've followed for like the last 6 years, so it's pretty easy to guess in Arknights. But Infield's new.
If we're doomed to stay with Wuling related places for a while, we could still go to the Hongshan Academy of Science, like the Hongshan Crater.
Yeah, there's this lot. You have the Hongshan crater, which I think will actually probably come up at some point because that new blonde haired dude. He
An
specifically is
Imperial
noted
Guard.
to both be an Imperial Guard, which is super interesting that Imperial Guards are on Talos in the first place.
Mhm.
And second, he also is noted to be linked to the Hongshan crater in some way, like he's guarding it or something, based on the little bit of information we got on him already.
So we could stay here forever. We're stuck in space China forever. It's a CN show all over again.
Oh, no, please.
Oh no. Um, Going back to Shu in this event. So in the storyline of How a People Sows, where Shu was introduced, she is the storyline of this, just to break it down a little bit, is that there's a city that she is sort of helping. It's an agricultural based city, and they have a bunch of Tiansha who are trying to both like the city is essentially like they feed the entire country of Yan. They grow rice fields and other plants in order to feed the entire country. And they recently got hit by an Originium catastrophe that they are then having to deal with the repercussions of. And in there, you have here on the right, He Shang. He's a new Tianchi, if I remember correctly, who is trying to fulfill a new. He's trying to produce new Originium resistant crops, which is something that his original teacher kind of left behind as a project that he was working on. And they specifically did find a surviving plot of Originium resistant plants that they believe they could then sort of like crossbreed to make more of their plants resistant to Originium. But what's interesting about that is in Endfield 1.4, they specifically mentioned that multiple generations in the past, another Tianshu had successfully created blight resistant crops as well within Wuling. So the same general concept was used and was succeeded after multiple generations of attempts. And it could be possibly the same general concept that was applied. Furthermore, the blight, quote unquote blight, is sort of referenced in this event. So this is G. He is another one of the Farenmoot siblings. Specifically, he's not a playable character yet, but he's the sibling who kind of like he's about market, about the process of buying. He's business focused. And he shows up and is like, I remember a demonic fragment to the north. To note, the far north is where the collapsals come from. That's where the gate is. But a demonic fragment to the north is the result of the people at the time resorting to any means necessary to resist it. Don't really know what it is yet. Now its incarnation is helping the people fend off demonic calamity. Fate works in mysterious ways. And then they kind of talk about like being conflated with it, which makes me think that it is like possibly another Farenmut, possibly Sami. Not entirely sure. The people must never learn of the demonic presence. How do you resist the lure of this one precious piece of unpolluted soil? For 1,000 years, the people here have lived across the river from that blight. Here, a people have sowed for 1,000 years in blissful seclusion. The time has come to reap what's sowed 1,000 years ago, and it must be reaped by the right person. Now, there's plenty of other dialogue I could have pulled, but I thought this was just the most relevant one, where it kind of hints that the demonic presence, which to note, demons in Arknights are very explicitly collapsals. They are not TCAS. TCAS are called devils. They are very, very specific with their wording choices that demons are always referring to collapsals. So demonic presence tells me that the collapsal energy is polluting the soil. And that's what they're talking about here. Sounds suspiciously like ether.
A little bit, yeah.
So that's the main thing I wanted to point out there, because again, we are now in Endfield, and the united presence of these three with on Talos has resulted in Farenmut hearts, a presence of Sui, being utilized to sort of suppress the blight, to push the ether back, which is exactly the same thing that Shu does on her own in this event. She uses her Farenmut power to suppress the blight. So I'm just presenting that as like there's a very decent chance that the collapsals and the ether are connected, not just through the Kargerike, but also because of the similarities in the storytelling here.
I don't know how relevant this is to this, but spoiler warning to anybody who is still doing the last Sui event. So Wang ends off that event getting the first Originium of that area inserted into him as the new kind of like big Farenmut. So my read on Sharonite is the understanding of not Sharonite. What is it? Is Sharonite Farenmut power plus Originium? Am I misremembering that?
Yes,
Yeah,
that is
okay.
explicitly what it is.
So my understanding then is that the learnings that Wang got from literally observing the first Originium is kind of like the ancient, quote, ancient concepts of Sharonite, which eventually gets developed into Sharonite we have today. Draknus, yay or nay?
That is, yes, that is pretty much matching up with my interpretation of it.
Okay. So we have Shu with crop resist,
and
light
I do want to
resistance,
dive
Originium
into that
resistance.
more, but I'll let you finish your thought here.
No, you go ahead. I'm just kind of tapping off.
So because we kind of you kind of like glazed over it really quick here. So in the event, the most recent Sui event, Wang, who is I think the second oldest sibling, or the second oldest male sibling at least, he makes a deal with the current True Lung. I guess technically it was 150 years ago. He made a deal with the current True Lung of that time to effectively kill the remnants of Sui and take its place. And that way, like, they could live without fear of Sui ever reviving itself and taking revenge or destroying Yan.
Which it wants to do.
Which it does want to do. And in the process, he succeeds, but another Farenmut, or at least another Farenmut proxy, shows up. And
of a different Farenmut, yeah.
Yeah, and proceeds to shove one of the three Prime Originium. This is the other Farenmut. She proceeds to shove a Prime Originium, one of the three. And to note, you know what? I'm sorry. I'm going to tangent really quick here because this is kind of important for understanding the Prime Originiums as they are.
I figured this would eventually transition into the first Originiums.
Yeah, it was bound to. And I just made a episode of Lore Archive that describes this in greater detail. If anyone wants to go watch that, please do. I
Nice
want that
plug.
series to exceed. So there's 3 prime veins on Terra. To note, Terra is a supercontinent. They have 3 like Originium veins that act as like where the massive deep underground clusters of Originium exist. And these 3 veins seemingly coincide with the 3 prime Originiums that act as their origin source. So we don't currently it is believed that we know the location of 2 prime Originiums. One of them is Omninam, which was crucial to chapter 14. Omninam is the Originium the prime Originium that was found by the first Lord of Tikaz Farchaser when he also found the crown, the Black Crown. And that one we believe likely originated correct me if I'm wrong, I'm pretty sure it likely originated with the Colossal Prime Vein. It might have been
I'm of the mind it's Targanet. I don't know how to
it might
pronounce
have
that
been
word.
Targangelis. I'm blanking on which one it was.
The reason
Uh,
why I think that is because I'm pretty sure Priestess has control of the Colossal Prime Vein first
you
Originium.
know what? I think you're right. So actually, I think I had it backwards. Yeah. So Omninam, I believe, came from Targanglis, the Darkanglis Prime Vein, and then the Colossal. We currently don't have that particular Originium Prime, but the Jingyu Prime Vein, which is mostly in Yawn, it also kind of goes into Ursus a little bit. That one is specifically the one that was being used to suppress Sui in the first place. And this Farenmut proxy shoved it into the body of Wang after he took over Sui, after he became Sui. And so now Wang is literally both Sui as like his body and also a Prime Originium merged together.
With the cute little side effect of protecting that first Originium from Priestess having control over it.
Correct.
As like a small aside, I feel because we know that one of the first Originiums are on Talos too. Of all the candidates, I feel like the most likely one is the one that Priestess has under control because that would just be part of the resolution of versus Priestess storyline of Arknights. But that's just
Yeah,
kind of crack.
I think it's either that one or it's the one that Wang has in his possession right now. It's one
Yeah.
of the two. And the reason why it has to be one of those two, it cannot, in my opinion, be Omninam, is because we know what Omninam looks like. It's the only one we've actually seen depicted. And I'll pull an image of that up really quick here. Here we go. So, remember that in the prologue for Enfield, we saw that the Originium Prime that was brought to Talos is a pyramid. It's pyramid shaped. Omninam is not shaped like that. This is Omninam in the sky right here. It is very clearly a more like trapezoid crystal looking thing. It is not shaped the same way at all.
Agreed.
So yeah.
So I guess go back to how that matters for Sui then.
Well, and yeah, how that matters for Sui ultimately is I think again, we know that Farenmoots, because of this event, we now know Farenmoots can sort of bond with Originium, and they both kind of like protect it and also like merge with it in some capacity. It's still ethereal on exactly how that works. But through that, plus Shu and like all of them creating the artificial heart, plus the presence of Su, I believe that's the origin of Zeronite. Zeronite was sort of all of this being studied by Tiansha, and them realizing we need to merge these powers in order to suppress the blight. We need to do this in order to essentially try and cure our land. That's where I'm taking this ultimately, is just I think this is all leading up to what we've already now seen in Enfield.
I also saw there was a throwaway line in 1.4 when Sue was talking talking about some friends from or people that she knows from Yumen, which makes me feel like there's like a half chance of Chongyue or a descendant of Zhu Li here, but that's just kind of that has nothing to do with anything. What are we looking for?
This thing.
Ooh.
Someone mentioned in my chat just now, and I felt I had to at least address it somehow. So, in the prologue, yes, the Prime Originium we see is in fact a giant pyramid. We then see in that same prologue that Inmin controls the Protocol-Originium via what is called the starting point, which is also a pyramid-shaped Protocol-Originium piece that also has like a slight bit of like seemingly like damage or something on it. Which is where I personally get the theory that Endman possibly took the corruption of the first Originium, or at least took a piece of that first Originium to construct Protocol-Originium. I know it's kind of tangential because it's just like, oh, it's same shape, same look, but like, again, I don't think that's an accident. I think there's a very good chance that it is linked.
Seems reasonable to me.
I think so. Trying to think of
However,
any Protocol-Originium reference.
The problem with that theory, though, is timeline. I don't think they can be one and the same, because we know that Protocol-Originium was created during the First Angloy War, and the Originium Prime was
Or
corrupted
before
at
that,
the
right?
end of the war, is what I remember.
Keep talking. I'll look into it. I'll look
Yeah,
those
yeah,
files
go
right now.
for that, go for that. But if that's the case, if it is at the end of the war that it got corrupted, then that would mean he created Protocol-Originium before that corruption happened, which would indicate that that the first Originium is still on the planet and is not the same thing as the starting point. He might have created his own separate first Originium using that other one as a sort of like a reference point, or like he took Originium from it as like his creation.
You're right. The Reconvener Nexus file says it was contaminated in the final battle of the First Angloy War.
Right. So yeah, so he had to have created his own, essentially, his own separate first Originium called the starting point in order to create Protocol-Originium, and that's the origin of Protocol-Originium, is how I'm currently interpreting it.
That sounds right.
So there you go. That hopefully that answers that chatter's question.
Says here Protocol-Originium was created before the First Angloy War, and its creation was validated during the First Angloy War because TPing is OP.
Yes. Imagine being able to just teleport wherever you needed to go.
Kinda good.
Seems pretty useful.
All right, where do we think we're going next?
One last thing I want to mention about Farenmoots, and that is specifically Levitain.
Just such a big question mark. Why did that Farenmut sword come out of the the first Originium? I will say, before we get into it, a lot of Levitain's files are very unreliable narrator, other than like a couple, because they're like scientists trying to like come to conclusions when Levitain will just tell them nothing because she doesn't care.
well, Levitain both doesn't care and often doesn't know, because Levitain is missing many of her memories. What Endfield does not dive into, because technically there's no way for Endfield to like have this information outside of what was recorded in Rhodes Island's records that Perlica was pulling up. But Levitain and Suitor before her are missing their memories because of the sword itself, seemingly.
Yes.
The sword being also named Surtur, which is also a Farenmoot.
And the collection of memories that Surtur/Levitain has are a mixture of her own and every other wielder of that sword, the Farenmut Surtur.
Which means it may not have even always been Surtur. It could have just been like multiple Surturs that have just had their memories wiped over and over again. It could also be literally just multiple different vessels for Surtur, for the sword Surtur.
I'm on the different vessels train personally.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But one thing I would love to note is notice the like floating metal, ring that floats behind Surtur in all of her art. Same. That was how it was with original Surtur. That's also how it is with Leviatane. That same ring is present on the Farenmut proxy that shoved Originium into Wing.
Oh, what the? I've never noticed this.
Yep. Which makes you wonder: is this just a thing that that certain Farenmuts have, or is that is the Sword Surtur and this proxy originating from the same origin Farenmut?
We know that the Surtur Farenmut fell and got sealed into the sword in a giant cataclysmic battle against the Farenmut Sami. Those two being absurdly powerful Farenmuts, and obviously that probably happens near the Sami ice field, which is in a reasonable distance of Yon.
Yep.
So I could see it. We don't have enough information. However, that's interesting.
Yeah, we'll looking at this map again. This is Yon, sort of like. Actually, I might have a better map I can use. Where's my lore archive folder? To note, I have a big mass of folders here with Arknights content.
Oh my gosh.
This is how I track everything. I could be more organized, but
Organizing is for schmucks.
That's what I'm saying.
I know
Also-
I had a map somewhere, but it might be in a different folder.
I'd also like to just say this to be courteous. It's been 2 hours. How long do you want to go?
Oh my god, I
could go forever.
I'm
but-
sorry. Here we go. Here's the actual image. Let me finish this thought, and then we'll talk time here.
Yeah.
So we have Yon on the far right here. Ursus is here, and the portal we know is up here past where the map ends. It's up in the far north up here.
Mhm.
Yon and Ursus both have dealt with collapsals in this area up here, and seemingly collapsal energy kind of like trickles down via like water, via rivers down into Yon via this path. So that's kind of like we like Sami's over here, but the actual Sami mountain is somewhere closer to the north. Which the Sami mountain is also the Farenmut. The Farenmut is literally a giant mountain. So just there's just for reference, that's what the map looks like.
Low-key continent sized in a sense.
Yeah, Infi ice fields. Thank you, Kismel. Yes, the to the north up here is the Infi ice fields, which is then what leads to the portal. All right, let's talk time. Ash, what are you looking at in terms of time?
A clock?
So true. So wise even.
What do you mean?
Like
It's been 2 hours, just wanna make
yeah,
sure you're
it's
okay
been
with
2
that.
hours. How much longer do you want to go?
Oh, I'm fine. I mean, go through your topic list.
Okay.
4 hours
Learning.
it is.
I mean, I know I'm not talking much, but that's because like some of this stuff I don't have much to like add.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Really, or like questions, because like a lot of this I'm pretty familiar with. It doesn't feel too new, but
Mhm.
it's still nice to kind of be like, oh yeah, okay, that assumption you had is correct. Hooray!
Hooray!
So in my head I'm going like, yeah, okay, I got that one. I'm a little off on this one. I got that one though.
Yep.
You know.
And again, this is where it's like the wiki is usually pretty well detailed. You just don't get a lot of the
figure it's okay.
specifics.
Yeah, I feel like it's okay for like, since I'm mostly doing Enfield stuff, I feel
Mhm.
like it's probably sufficient for getting like the super high level gist, which is probably all you really need for Enfield until Enfield says, okay, no, you need more detail. But
Right.
then Enfield will give it to us.
Well, and that's where, like, for me, the big stuff was like, oh, hey, the moment Farenmut hearts got mentioned, I remember on stream just going, oh my god, they did it.
See, I remember they were working on something. I didn't quite realize it was a Farenmut heart.
Yeah.
I will say
So that's cool.
them adding the little yellow text, you can hover it for the description, is so nice.
Oh, it's so nice.
I know.
Yes.
Oh my gosh.
That is one of the best quality of lives you can put into a game that has lore.
The first game I saw
Agree.
that did it was actually Final Fantasy 16, and then ever since then, I've seen at least 4 other RPGs just do the same thing.
Real
I've seen it
recognize
in a
it.
few. Um, or sometimes what happens is like uh, any new thing that's highlighted will just show up in a thing that you can look up after the dialogue ends.
Right.
Like
Yeah.
there's like a glossary. Glossaries are super common in RPGs.
Yes. I mean,
But
and
like being able to
they're
quick
common
use
in a
the
lot of
glossary at any
fiction.
time is nice.
Yeah. If you've ever read The Lord of the Rings, you'll know that a lot of the time he has an entire like section of the book that is just dedicated to background lore that he then will like reference in each chapter, and he'll have a little citation going, go look at the appendix to read on this section. So it's, it
Yeah,
originates from all the way back then.
that's excessive. I don't want to do that when I'm reading. I'll do it when I'm doing a game, but it's so hard for me to do it when I'm like reading.
Yeah, I come from a world where I just got used to doing that. So even when I'm reading Arknights, I'll see a word I don't recognize, or I'll see a term that I like. I'm like, I think I should know that, but I should go look it up, and I'll literally stop reading to go look it up.
That's me
That's dedication.
reading fan fiction of fandoms that I have no idea. I've just been recommended the fan fiction through some means, so I keep looking up canon details on the wiki or something.
Oh, those are always fun.
All right.
All right. Where do we think we're going next, Draknus?
All right. So let's see. We've covered Agaloy, PCS, a bunch of stuff on Blight, Char and Camille, Collapsals, Shoes Event. You know what? We should probably. I kind of touched on it a little bit. Let's go into some Originium. And like the nature of Originium itself.
I have comments on that. Let's do it.
Let's do it.
We love precursor projects.
Hell yeah!
Let me see it.
And actually, maybe we can just talk about precursor projects as a whole in that case, because there's a lot to talk about there.
Just dive into the Seaborn real quick. Civilite Eterna. Go all the way.
The Seaborn. Oh man.
Why not?
I'm still not sure. I'm half hoping we don't have the Seaborn in Endfield.
I want them because rule of cool.
I can't deny that. We do know that the Aegir are on Talos, so there's always the chance.
True.
Okay, so this is some text pulled from chapter 15, chapter 14. There's a moment in chapter 14 where Omnidam gets summoned, and then a small crew of the Doctor, kal'tsit, Logos, Omnia, and W all basically get assimilated via Omnidam into the assimilated universe. And the only reason, according to kal'tsit, that they did not get actually fully assimilated, as she says down here, sorry, I gotta switch my window so everyone can see. As she says down here, okay. We should have been assimilated by the Originium and become part of this ocean of the assimilated universe. But thanks to the Doctor, we were not. She then talks about Doctor changing. We don't have to worry about that. But essentially what this is saying is because the Doctor is himself one of the two creators of Originium and a precursor of his own, he was able to effectively temporarily change the rules of the Originium assimilated universe to allow living beings to exist in there without being assimilated themselves. And he did that without even thinking about it. It just kind of is something that he naturally ended up doing reactively. Later on, they talk about Sark has souls who have been assimilated appear and essentially are just constantly fighting. This is what they call the myriad souls, which is basically the Sarkaz are interesting because they don't get or at least up till this point, they didn't get assimilated the same way as other creatures. They kind of ended up in a limbo state where they weren't fully assimilated. Their souls kind of kept on living and kept on reenacting the same things that they were doing in life, which was often just war and fighting. And it was the efforts of Teresa at the end of chapter 14 that result in them actually, like, she changes the core fundamental way that Originium works, and it started allowing the Sarkaz to be fully assimilated properly. At least, again, that's the interpretation that has been widely accepted from what I've understood.
It's also worth saying that throughout Sarkaz's history, the Myriad Souls have kind of influenced the minds of every Sarkaz that's like even from birth to like I don't even know how to specifically describe that, but like to feel their emotions somewhat, their aggression, their rage.
Right. And that's where kal'tsit's earlier speech about prophecy ends up kind of lining up with this, where it's like prophecy could possibly partially be linked to the unassimilated remaining souls in limbo, the myriad souls, having sort of connected to the remaining Sarkaz that live out on Terra, and that's where like the visions come from, the large history records that they kind of have. Their bloodline memory comes from the myriad souls being not properly assimilated. But again, supposedly that was fixed by Teresa.
Right.
Which is then where I go into, technically, there's two kinds of prophecy. You have the assimilated universe ancestral memory prophecies. You have the Cyclopes, who theirs is seemingly like they have like an ancestral ability to kind of calculate into the future, and Originium Arts has enhanced that ability. And that seems to be a separate thing on its own.
Wait, so that's not them gleaming into the history of the Sarkaz to make a prediction?
Well, see, but that's the thing. Because the Cyclopes keep that ability even after the myriad souls disappear, and furthermore, the Cyclopes had that ability before they even started getting assimilated in the first place.
Like
that was an ability that the Cyclopes had when they were still TCAS, before Originium affected them.
I see.
Which means that's different. That's its own thing.
Huh. Let me look up an operator file. Keep
yeah,
going.
yeah. So this is where things get like kind of muddy, because prophecy can refer to multiple different things here. You have the prophecies that come from the myriad souls, the ancestral memory. You have the prophecies that come from Cyclopes, who have that ability just innately, but also have it enhanced via Originium, possibly merging the two somewhat. We don't really fully know or understand it. And then you have the prophecies that are possibly just fake, that were just created by people like Quisartustaj, who just kind of made something up and are trying to make it happen. And this is where things, again, get really confusing.
Yeah, this is the operator file for a Cyclops that specifically talks about the mechanics of the prophecy.
Okay.
At least specifically her prophecy, Valorkin. Yes, I don't know how to pronounce that.
Yeah, here, let me I'm gonna open it up here really quick.
If we go to the classified log, that's speaking specifically of the Sarkaz version that you're speaking of. I guess I just am unfamiliar with the pre-assimilated universe or pre-TCAS, during the TCAS, while they were TCAS prophecy.
Yeah. I'm going to read through this really quick. Historical records have always left the Sarkaz tribe of the Cyclopes shrouded in mystery. In modern times, some even believe their deeds to be nothing more than myths or legends, tall tales born from misunderstandings. With the exception of the memories passed down through the Sarkaz, which I'm assuming is Myriad Souls related stuff. So with the exception of
one thing I want to say real quick is that the Myriad Souls was explicitly those souls trapped in the assimilated universe.
Yes.
There's still history recorded without the Myriad Souls, right?
Maybe, possibly. Again, we don't really have anything directly stating that.
Okay.
But I think it's safe to say that that is the case because Originium has always been like the AU is always about recording civilization, recording data from the things that it has assimilated. So if
Right.
it's recording memory, then yes, I would assume that you can still access that even after the assimilated souls moved on. It was the thing about the assimilated soul or about the myriad souls is the myriad souls made it so that ancestral memory that the Sark has as a species basically were just affected by those memories passively. Now you have to like
Right.
go in and actively look for it.
Right.
Is kind of my perception of it, at least. But then, if I'm reading this as, with the exception of the memories passed down through the Sarkaz via the Myriad Souls, the last written record of the Cyclopes in the nation of Terra appeared about 110 years ago. Afterwards, they disappeared completely from the public eye.
That's the Sarkaz King, right? Or no?
Well, so 110 years ago, I'm trying to think when exactly that would have been.
Regardless, most of the
Yeah.
power descriptions in that first paragraph of the classified log.
Right. But yeah, I can't say for sure when exactly that was. Afterwards, they disappeared completely from the public eye, even though Rhodes Island knew that the Cyclopes had foretold the firestorm that would engulf Londinium. None of them were witnessed appearing during the conflict itself, which is why when Valor Quinn took the initiative to reach out to Rhodes Island and even express her desire to work together, the news was met with astonishment even by Sarkaz familiar with the Cyclopes. Astonishment, but also deep concern. Curiosity and joy were the furthest things from anyone's minds. What the legends say about the Cyclopes have largely proven true. They could indeed foresee the future, and what they see are usually visions of doom. And down here we even have this bit, although their foresight does fall within the scope of Originium arts, a more accurate description would be an innate sensitivity, so the innate power of the Cyclopes, rather than an active use of arts.
Mm-hmm.
It is in essence still a comprehensive deduction derived from the collective memory. So they're saying it's still actually using that collective memory, but the cognitive tendencies shaped by the race's long suffering may be why the Cyclopes tend only to foresee miserable tales. So it's possible they had the ability always, but the collective memory and the myriad souls kind of forced them to see very specific visions rather than having more control over it.
So it's adapted.
That's kind of
guess,
my
in a way.
interpretation of this, yeah.
I would assume the Cyclops of today on Enfield have this Sarkaz painted version of the prophecy as well. Seeing prophecy as well.
Right. And that's where what's interesting about Seska is Seska has like created some sort of like formula for this. They have scienced the whole thing out and they know a lot more about how it actually functions, and they now have a like supposedly a reliable means of gauging, or at least a more reliable means than we used to have of gauging these prophecies. But it's possible they're still being affected by that myriad soul's sensitivity.
Makes sense.
So yeah.
So basically, this is like one of those episodes where you go to a medium and then they're just like, is there a Carla in the room? I feel a Carla. She had diabetes. Oh, my aunt named Carla had diabetes. She's telling you to watch out for cars. Oh, I had my license revoked.
Yeah, 1-to-1. The power of prophecy is the way that you tell that you're gonna get type 2 diabetes in your future.
Yes. Perfect. To be fair, a lot of the prophecies, and again, this is where like the Cyclopes prophecies often were like, they were really accurate in the short term, like if they were like really like happening within the same like couple of minutes. But then the longer and longer out that they were, the less and less accurate they got and the more muddy they got. For example, one of the prophecies that was brought up back in Babel, the Babel event, which is a huge event for the story of Arknights, there was a prophecy that a Sarkaz child would appear from sort of like a glowing wall, and then that child would be like one who would I believe it was like cited that they would be like the savior. And that happened, but then the child in question never ended up being the savior because the glowing wall was interpreted incorrectly. They saw a child emerging from a giant sandstorm, which looked like a giant glowing wall, and so they interpreted that to be the person. When in reality, the glowing wall was actually Originium. It was actually the assimilated universe itself, and the prophecy was actually talking about W, as far as we are now aware.
Who's W?
Oh boy. Oh,
You like bombs? You like explosions?
Yes.
let's pull up.
I never heard the
Wishadel.
W interpretation before. I don't have an interpretation myself, but so that's interesting.
Yeah. So yeah. In Babel, they thought it was Ascalon who appeared. But then this is why W became the speaker. So in Infield, there's actually a character that's referenced in some of the weapon lore, and I think there's one
It's
other
in
location.
Camille's weapon file.
Yeah, Camille specific, his weapon file talks about it's a couple of sarcasms talking about what's happening on the other side of the gate. There's also a moment where they're talking about like the speaker just like is already, she went back to Terra. So the speaker is supposedly still on Terra and is alive, and the speaker, last we heard, is W, also known as Wishadel.
I'm gonna say, you dead naming her? What's going on?
Yeah, so
There it is.
So this is W, and W is a character who's been in the story of Arknights for, I mean, literally since the beginning. She originally was on the side of Reunion, which is sort of a terrorist organization that we fought very early on. And W was always sort of a double/triple agent. She was working for... W was weird. She was working with Reunion, but she was also kind of working with Reunion at the orders of her commander, who wanted her to essentially spy on Tallulah, and that commander was working under like assumptions that he was still working with Rhodes Island/Babel, and so they were carrying that legacy on. W herself was never like specifically on anyone's side, but she regularly changed sides. She would flop around based on what she believed was like her fit with her motives at any one moment. This is why her main theme song is called Renegade. Anyway, all of this is to say, ultimately, her main loyalty was to Teresa, who was the Lord of Fiends before Amia. And when Teresa gave W the name Wishadel, because W itself is actually a call sign. Sarkaz mercenaries often don't have names themselves. They adopt the name of the last other Sarkaz mercenary that they killed. And so she became W because she killed the previous W and took up his knife. Teresa gives her the actual name Wishadel, which, if I remember correctly, is like linked to some form of ancestral name for the Sarkaz. I don't remember exactly what it was. And after she took up the name Wishadel, she exited the Originium, which to the Sarkaz looked like she was exiting a golden wall. And essentially the Sarkaz then decided she was the one to become the speaker, which is also something that Amia kind of made happen, because again, Amia is the Lord of Fiends, so Amia kind of blessed that interpretation and allowed Wishadel to become the speaker, the ambassador of Kazdel, which is the Kazdel is another term I guess I should explain really quick. Kazdel is essentially both the name of like the main city, the home of the Sarkaz, but it's also kind of like it's their ancestral home. It is like the city is the people, like their home is where the people are, and that is Kazdel. But Kazdel is also a location at the same time.
It's like two different references. It can get confusing when going through like historical documents.
Yeah, if you if you know anything about Israel and the origin of the Jewish people, it's very clearly kind of taking inspiration from that.
But like ancient Israel,
Right,
like Old Testament Israel.
right.
Biblical.
Yeah, pretty
Yes.
much.
I mean, again, Babel is the organization that was made by Teresa and kal'tsit to specifically act as a organization that would help Kazdel and the Sarkaz sort of communicate and make peace with all the other nations of Terra,
Hence
which is
Tower of Babel.
hence Tower of Babel, exactly.
Yeah.
That's why it was named that. So it's all biblical references at the end of the day.
Pretty much everything Sancta and Sarkaz are biblical in nature.
Right.
That's how I find Arknights very easy to consume and figure out, because you just take the baseline mythological / historical context in real life, with like Gaul being French, for example, stuff like
Yes.
that. Here
Yeah.
it's Bible.
For those who didn't know, every nation in Terra, in the original Arknights, are based off of the history or myths of a real world counterpart. So there's a lot of references you can pull that way.
How convenient.
Anything else on
Or
the
And of course-
sometimes incredibly annoying.
Oh yeah, because sometimes they just warp things to where it's not reality.
Yeah.
So you have to figure out where the differences are.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Oh no, Hoyo does this all the time with their mythological culture smoothies.
Oh yeah. I'm fairly certain almost all almost all of these games take some inspiration from real life to some degree. It just depends on
Oh yeah.
how much they decide to change it for their own purposes.
Yeah. The
Yeah.
extent to which they matter.
Anyway, all of this was eventually to say Originium as a whole and the assimilated universe. I know a lot of this is already recorded on the wiki. Ash, you know a lot of this. But
Shut up.
the AU as a whole is meant to record civilization. It's meant to sort of act as a sub-dimension that keeps all of this data recorded for future generations. That was its original purpose, was to keep all this data for future civilizations so that they could continue to revive themselves every time the observers destroyed them. And then that purpose kind of got corrupted via a combination of disagreements between Priestess and Oracle, who Oracle is the origin of the Doctor. That's who the Doctor used to be. Disagreements between them. They debated on like what it should be used for. And so that caused some like separation in its purpose. And then eventually when Farchaser, the first King of Sarkaz, got a hold of it, he also changed it. And that's what caused Oripathy and cataclysms and all this other stuff. So while the purpose itself, the original purpose, is still a thing, all these other problems kind of arose from that corruption of purpose.
And that's just one precursor project.
And that's just one, exactly. Because I guess now is where we talk about the Seaborn. Oh boy, the Seaborn.
Oh boy.
Let's see.
Of whom were apparently able to adapt to collapsal energy and overcome it.
Yeah, and there's a lot of great like online videos and stuff talking about this already, because the Seaborn are a fan favorite race.
They're so popular.
They're so popular. That's not a good image.
That is just a splash of color. I don't even know what I was looking at.
Yeah, then Ron, I don't see a lot of the images I'm looking for sitting here, so they're probably all over the place.
If you go to the
here we go. Here's
oh,
a
yeah.
good one. The Firstborn. This is a good image to use. So the Seaborn, if anyone's played Warhammer 40k, the closest comparison to the Seaborn is probably Tyranids. The idea behind the Seaborn is they were originally a group of Farenmoots. I believe 3 Farenmoots specifically. We've mainly had interactions with one, which is a Sharmala, which is, I believe, the one that is being shown right here. A Sharmala was a Farenmoot that was being experimented on by the precursors, a separate group of precursors from Oracle and Priestess. Oracle and Priestess were known for the Originium. There was a separate group that was known for the Seaborn, and they took a Farenmoots, underwater specific Farenmoots, experimented on them, and were trying to figure out how to take Farenmoot power and sort of take their like DNA, their cells, and assimilate with them to allow them to basically like have infinite evolution ability, the ability to evolve rapidly enough to resist whatever it was that the observers were using to destroy them. This backfired real hard because they instead created another race entirely originating from the Farenmoots that they began with. And that Farenmoot became like a Sharmala itself, basically started splitting off and creating all of these like pieces of itself that would then assimilate other life, that would become part of a hive mind that it led. And then that hive mind just had the goal of survive, 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 and adapt. Continue absorbing, continue assimilating, and continue living as an entity. And its evolution abilities are so insane that it is quoted that the underwater species known as the Aegir, which similar to the species of the land, the Aegir were underwater animals that became humanoid via Originium, seemingly, but like they also don't have any Originium in their blood, so it's kind of weird. I'm still not 100% sure how that worked. But they became humanoid. They're the most advanced race on the planet because they actually had direct access to precursor technology from the labs that were used to create the Seaborn.
They basically just reverse engineered all that.
Yeah, they reverse engineered it all, so they have technology that is almost equivalent to precursor tech. And they use that. They purposely have to scale back the level of technology they use against the Seaborn, because the higher level technology they use, the more the Seaborn can adapt to it. So they talk about like, yeah, there was a group of Seaborn, we nuked them with black hole technology, and then they adapted to black holes. And so they like every time they come across a new group of Seaborn, they have to be like, all right, we're going to start with just the basics. We're going to hit them with clubs and sticks and kill them that way until we can no longer kill them that way. Then we're going to evolve to using fire and heat. And then once they resist fire and heat, we're going to evolve. And like they just keep having to like scale their technology up to continue killing off the Seaborn until they've successfully wiped out a group of Seaborn so that they can reset. But the problem with that is like knowing that you've successfully killed off the entire section of a hive mind is really, really tough, because the Seaborn instinctively will try to survive so they can pass their evolutionary traits onto another group of Seaborn. They will always try to like run away. And so that's something they always have to handle. They always have to figure out how they're going to do that.
It's kind of why this hyper advanced race of the Aegir are tied down. Because yes, they have the tech to probably just wipe the rest of Terra, but they have to deal with the Seaborn the whole time, so they don't really have the time.
Right. So yeah.
In the context of just
fun.
in the context of like precursor projects, I don't know, it just gets freakier and freakier, and you have to think, can these deal with the observers? Originium is a solution that evidently maybe can. Seaborn, I don't know. Do we think that... What did ending 3 say, or ending 4? I forgot. Didn't like the Seaborn ascend into the fucking stars or something because they adapted?
So for reference to those who don't know, who have not played the original game, in Arknights we have a game mode called Integrated Strategies. Integrated Strategies essentially are roguelite game mode, but it comes with its own forms of stories, almost all of which, or all of which, are technically like speculative stories. They don't necessarily, they're not actually things that have happened, but they are possible futures that have not occurred or have not yet occurred. With the exception of like IS-6, where some stuff in IS-6 did actually happen.
It's like it's usually told in kind of like a Dark Souls manner too in IS, where everything is scattered everywhere and you have to put the pieces together rather than one continuous story.
Right. For instance, IS-3, which is the one about the Seaborn, this is where we first saw one of the precursor labs that was underwater. Because this is the precursor lab right here. And then here's a Sharmala as well, fighting someone called the Last Knight, which there was a big fan theory that the new character that was shown off in Endfield is the Last Knight. I think we've successfully completely ruled that out at this point. But the Last Knight is technically a Casimiran knight who decided to go to the ocean and fight Seaborn, and he got infected himself, but he is so badass that he managed to avoid assimilating to the hive mind fully. So he just keeps fighting. Anyway, that's besides the point.
I think it's that ending.
Yeah, this end right here. So in IS-3, there is an ending. So again, these are speculative endings. They are not canon. They have not happened. But in IS-3, one of the endings is a Sharmala assimilates with Scotty, who is an Aegir character that we have in game. And when they assimilated with Scotty, it's like Scotty's own personality and a Sharmala's kind of merged, and Scotty proceeded to lead the Seaborn in a war against the land. And they almost successfully wiped out all humanity. And it was only with the help of Mizuki, who is actually a character who was technically a biological experiment with like Seaborn genetics. Mizuki successfully kind of convinces the Seaborn that they can coexist. But part of that coexistence results in the Seaborn actually leaving the planet itself. They actually break a hole into the now I'm blanking on the name of the sky globe.
Starpod?
The Starpod, thank you. They successfully break a hole into the Starpod, and then they go into the greater universe. And in that ending, Scotty / Sharmala is noted to basically say, after literally, like, we don't really know how long, but after millennium, billions of years, however long it takes them, she successfully assimilates into the Seaborn all of reality, the entire universe. And then basically causes a new Big Bang. So that's a thing.
Which may or may not include the observers, but these endings are like, they're not canon, but they're also just alternate possibilities. Like, this could have happened.
Right.
But it didn't in our timeline.
Yeah. But basically what that's saying is, if they were successfully able to do that in an ending, that tells us that the Seaborn are capable of surviving the observers, because there's no way the observers would leave them unchecked.
I had like a small idea of like a rat getting on a boat into and going to the new world, like a Seaborn getting in a crate and going through the Cosmic Gate onto Talos 2, and then starting to spread there, which would be kind of scary, but it'd be funny.
It would be kind of scary, and the worst part is they actually mentioned something in 1.4 that could be hinting at something along those lines.
Do you mean the Shore Beyond or something else?
The Shore Beyond, yes. They specifically mentioned the Shore Beyond as being it's an ether phenomenon, but there's mention elsewhere in one of the archive files. You're the one who told me about it, Ramen, about a guy who like tried to go to the oceans to the south and supposedly got lost.
I believe that's a navigator weapon file.
Navigator weapon file? Yeah, let me...
But that one's more on the talking point that I had before, where I'm pretty sure there's more than one Cosmic Gate on Talos 2.
Oh,
considering
100%.
there were 2 Cosmic Gates on Terra.
There it is. Yeah, hardly anyone
really
remembered his
whipping
name. A catastrophe messenger. Falcon was born in the borders of Casimir's, started his lonesome career, and then blah, 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 went into the Talos Gate. Yep. Free of catastrophes. Yeah, they're talking about this like one explorer that got to Talos.
Most of the Cosmic Gate stuff's near the bottom, I think.
Yeah, if I remember correctly. Here it is. A particular story was rather popular among oceanic navigators of Talos 2. Should one see a cloud shaped like a raised mast with full sails at the place where the oceans and heavens meet, that would be Falcon's sail, and that would be a tiding for good weather. And I think actually maybe I skipped it. He traversed the mountain ranges, roamed the entire band, and finally arrived at the edge of the Great Ocean. Legends then claim the Falcon built a ship, and at that very place and sailed off to find a place even further south. He was never seen again after that. So while they're not necessarily linked, actually, here we go, all the way at the bottom. I'm about to introduce this latest paper on the untold secrets of Falcon. Falcon Gravning kept going south because of his belief that another undiscovered cosmic gate may exist in the south pole of this world. Another cosmic gate. Is that even possible? Who knows? Nobody could prove nor disprove it. He might have found a way home at the end of the sea or simply disappeared beneath the waves. So
the major thing is this is obviously a tall tale in a weapon file, not reliable narrator.
right.
But if Rossi's stuff is all real, apparently, then why can't this tall tale be?
Question.
Yeah.
Yes.
Are the cosmic gates on Terra also at the poles?
No.
I don't think the Sargon one is, right?
So there are 2 known cosmic gates on Terra, one of which is destroyed. I'm going to pull that map back up. I'm glad I left it open. So we know that the North Cosmic Gate, to the north of Sammy, in the Infi Ice Fields, that's the one that we repair and use to go to Talos 2.
Yep.
There was a second one all the way to the south, down here, past the edge of Sargon, and that Cosmic Gate was also leaking collapsals, and the king of Sargon at the time, the Shahansa, teamed up with another ruler. I'm blanking on his name at the off the top of my
Kagin
head.
something. I don't know how to pronounce it.
Him. I could pull up images of them too, because we have those images. This is also information from from IS4 specifically, by the way.
Yeah, a lot of the information we had on the collapsals for the longest time were only concentrated in this game mode, in Dark Souls style, where we had to just piece it together.
Yep. Here it is.
That one.
So these two here. So we have the Shahansa on the left, and the Kogan, I think was his title, on the right. And they went to the southern Cosmic Gate, and basically with a small army behind them, but their entire army died. Basically using their arts and just sheer might, beat back the collapsals, and then in the battle destroyed the Cosmic Gate.
And we know this because at one of the endings of IS4, I think Magellan and maybe Tefon and whoever else was on the expedition team went through the Cosmic Gate in Sami and came out like back in time, however many 100 years in the past, and witnessed the event. So apparently the Cosmic Gates can also traverse time.
Yes.
Which is like,
So that's fun.
I was just wondering if there was significance for the cosmic gates in Talos at least being at the poles because magnetic poles.
Well, and that's where I was about to get into that, because Terra is weird. To note, Terra is a supercontinent, but we also literally, supposedly, don't know what's on the other side of the planet. Let me see. It's Arknights. This is technically CN stuff, but I only need the beginning. I think it's the 6th anniversary trailer. Well, and Arknights 6th anniversary trailer. Maybe it wasn't the 6th.
I'll help look then.
Yeah, just a second. It's maybe it was 6.5. It's we've had so many years now, I don't remember anymore.
It's just all number soup at this point.
Number soup, yeah.
So this one here. I'm gonna turn the sound off for this. Oh yeah, it was this one. Okay. So 7th anniversary. It was the 7th anniversary trailer. We got this beginning section, and this is from the perspective of kal'tsit back when she was first created. So she's saying Priestess and the Doctor. This is them like working on the Originium project. This like wall here is actually them like trying to do calculations and science. The wall itself actually has a whole bunch of references. But we have this moment here where we're actually seeing an orbital view of the planet of Terra. And we see the supercontinent. And we see, like, it's just seemingly ocean all around it. So this is like the largest view of the planet that we have seen to this day. And
Some
it's
of it is like
and it's still only exactly like as someone said in my chat, it's still technically only a quarter of it.
there's like formations that kind of look like land, but you could also argue those are just big clouds / storms, hurricanes, whatever.
Yeah.
So it's like I don't even know. So this is all we know about the planet, and we don't know if like maybe the very north of Sami, the ice fields, maybe that's the North Pole, but I have no idea. We for certain though the south, the Sargon Cosmic Gate's not on the South Pole. It's just
Right.
only on the
Yeah.
south of the
And
continent.
this is how we know they're not on the poles. Because yeah, we could say we know the Enfi ice field is up here. If you can't see my mouse, I know it's kind of hard. Enfi ice field is in the top left here, and then down in the bottom right would be where the other gate was. But this is obviously not the poles of the planet.
So, but we do know that is on, or the one on Talos 2 is on the North Pole.
Right.
So the question is, would there be one on the South Pole? We haven't gone that far. We know they keep hinting about stuff outside of the civilization band, which I'm sure will be story relevant. We're just not there yet. But I could definitely see a world where you're saying with like magnetic poles and everything, where there is a cosmic gate on the south. But at least on Terra, it doesn't seem to be that way.
However, is this where I now go to the concept trailer?
Doesn't chapter 15 show the hole at the back of Terra? Wait, is that a thing? Let me look.
I mean, the concept trailer does.
Okay, we'll go through the concept trailer.
So, again for Ash, since you're not as familiar with the original game.
Yep.
In the original Arknights, they released these concept trailers. Now, I cannot play sound on these because they're made by the songs are made by Starset, and I would get copyrighted instantly. But they released these concept trailers, and the concept trailers are basically them showing teasers for where the story is going in the future. So concept trailer 4 is the last one we got. We're technically in the middle of what they showed here. And they're usually very cryptic. So there's a lot of stuff here that we kind of have to like piece together. We don't necessarily know what's going to be true or false or anything like that. But as we have moved through the story, we've seen more and more of this concept trailer kind of come to fruition. Right here. So here, let me full screen this. So right here, we have a whole bunch of precursor sarcophagi. We know that there's actually a whole bunch of precursor sarcophagi on Terra because there was an entire tomb of them that was used to power the laser beam, the hammer that was used to punch a hole through the star pod. It was from sarcophagi that was made.
This was a precursor project in of itself,
right? Where they were seeing if they could basically just like live through and past any of the destruction of the universe. Unfortunately, as far as we're aware, they're all dead because the sarcophagi can extend their lifespans a lot, but they require a ton of power to do so, or a ton of power to wake them up. And even all the power they had remaining that could punch a hole through the star pod was not enough to wake them up, or they were just already dead while inside of it. Which is how we have that is why the AI that was made to monitor these things, which was an AI that was technically a clone of a precursor's brain, that is Trevor Friston. He allowed that energy to be used because he knew he wasn't going to be able to wake any of them up. So that's them all shutting down. This scene is interesting because this is this like tree looking thing with all the roots is also what Omninam, when Omninam appeared in real space, this is what Omninam ended up looking like, but upside down. Is it like had a bunch of branching stuff coming around this building that was used as like the ritual focus point. So this seems to be referencing Originium in some way. This right here, I believe, is referencing the adaptation of animals into humanoid form, because these are all different animal skeletons. Again, we have the wall of Originium. This is what was used to supposedly like theory craft and eventually create Originium by Doctor and Priestess. Looks out into the ocean. I think it's partly after this. Okay. This is chapter 15 stuff. Where just Priestess appears. We have the sarcophagus again. This is specifically the sarcophagus of that the Doctor was using at the time.
Speaking of which, I don't think we ever got into the linchpin. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I've been holding off on that. The linchpins, it's
All right.
a massive thing. Okay, here's where I really wanted to get. Okay. It only shows up for a brief glimpse. All right. You once promised that when their afterglow next fell upon Terra, you would catch that beam of light for me. We have a moment, and I gotta use frame by frame because it literally flashes by so fast. We have a Greek statue. Now, this, to me, didn't mean much when I first saw it. But then Endfield 1.4 came out, and we fought Alikrios. The fact that we have a Greek statue that the only other reference to the Greeks that we have in Arknights is Minos, and Minos has nothing to do with the precursors.
Which inherently is so confusing to me.
it is so confusing. But we have Alikrios, who takes the form of seemingly like a Greek statue, a living Greek statue, a warrior and a gardener. And we have here a statue that shows up on screen that it's a very similar style with the words, "You once promised that when their afterglow next fell upon Terra, you would catch that beam of light for me." Which would assumingly be from Priestess, I believe.
I think it's too nebulous. Say.
It's very nebulous, and I'm definitely like pushing stuff in that direction myself because I'm starting to buy into that theory that we might be seeing a link between the Foundation and the future of Arknights. This section.
I mean, that would explain why Alikrios kept talking only about Terra and not about Talos.
Right. Because I think the Foundation wants Terra specifically. The Terrans that are on Talos are just kind of like them going, "Oh, hey, you brought us a gift. Hey, you brought us our property. Thank you.
Hey, that's our experiment.
But
hey, what's up?"
But they want all of Terra ultimately. This page here, we have 3 kind of like pillars with numbers that go up and then immediately drop to 0. And then it culminates in kal'tsit. I think the 3 pillars are representing each of the prime originiums, each of the veins. And the numbers going down to 0 is a sign that Originium is propagating, but then suddenly collapsing. Because we know in the current story of Arknights, this is what's actively happening right now in the story. Priestess, for whatever reason, is like preventing the growth of Originium from the veins right now for some unknown reason. And of course, kal'tsit, which merges with another character named Hjorda, who's really big in the story right now, who is basically a chosen one by Priestess. And this is where the term reconvener gets confusing. Reconveners, we know, are people that were assimilated and then brought back to real space via the ether corruption. But Priestess has been able to manifest people from the assimilated universe on her own this entire time. Hjorda is a person who got assimilated, and then Priestess brought her back into real space with her own power. And that is why when people are like, "Oh, well, Endman cannot possibly be a reconvener because the first reconvener was after Endman was born." But that doesn't necessarily mean he's not an Originium creation. That doesn't mean he's not from an assimilated universe. Priestess has been able to do that from the beginning.
I mean, Warfarn's doing it right now.
Yeah, people are telling me that this is Monster, so I might have the wrong thing, but the Hirda thing still stands regardless.
Yeah, the Hirda thing is real. I believe it was. Do y'all remember? Did Warford physically, like, explicitly try to make observers, or did it just happen and she got freaked out? I'm trying to remember.
Observers or reconveners?
Sorry, reconveners.
Yeah, so what we know is the first reconvener manifested on their own while Warfarin was kind of like trying to learn more about like how the corruption was affecting the first Originium. And then after that first reconvener, who we still don't know for sure who that was, after that one manifested, Warfarin began to go into the Originium woods on her own and basically would help people who wanted to come out and help them actually reconvene.
Gotcha.
This is all parts of different events that have already happened. Seaborn again. This is referencing Masses Travels with the angels and the Sarkaz. That's the Laterano symbol. This is the event that's coming out in CN. This is IS-7 referencing, I do believe, which actually
we don't know much about it.
I don't know much about it because I've been trying not to spoil myself, but I know that dives into Beast Lords specifically. It's starting here that things get really crazy though, and they start flashing a bunch of stuff on screen that's really hard to keep track of. All right. The Ark fell, its immolated carcass plunged through the chasm of the sky, which it itself ignited. The Ark fell, its immolated carcass plunged through the chasm of the sky. I'm just going to keep that one. Life faded away, its final drops of clearest wishes lost to a cold, stern ground of Originium assimilation. I was to be their witness, and I reject it with no hesitation. A conduit for the future should not have hope frozen in it. So I believe this is the Doctor speaking. Because the Doctor originally did not let himself be assimilated because he was supposed to bear witness to the final plan, which was to have Originium assimilate the entire world. I stand upon Terra. And again, just another reference. This is an observatory that was created by Ryan's lab in order to observe the sky pod, or the star pod. This right here is interesting because we know Seska's a floating city that is powered by a Farenmut Fang. But the original floating cities were created by a character named Nasty, who is a banshee of the Sarkaz, who worked with Ryan's lab to create her dream was to create a floating Kazdel, a flying city. And she succeeded in her goal of creating flying cities, and it was basically like they hadn't yet passed that on to the Sarkaz, but that was something she was really trying to make happen. So we believe that this is likely going to be the origin of Seska. This is where Seska's design will come from.
Nasty?
Yeah, Nasty would be effectively the creator of the flying cities of Seska.
Nasti. It's
yeah, I know.
Strange word.
Yeah. Look, the stars, they're closer now, aren't they? All right. This is interesting right here. Because this appears to be a drone, and we can kind of see what looks like bat wings on them, which hints at that there's basically a Closure, who is an engineer of Rhodes Island, another vampire. She has drones that have like little bat wings on them. And this seems to be her drones with like some larger object, seemingly either out in space or in another universe. We obviously can't see exactly what it is, but we have a bunch of floating objects, so I would assume space of some kind. I did see someone mention, and actually I see someone now in chat pointing it out to me, that Angelina Alter, who just got announced in CN, also has like a staff that looks similar to this. So it's possible that that event is going to explain what this is.
Yeah, we didn't read ahead.
Yeah. Again, I do not spoil myself on CN past like the basics. We then see this moment where the Stargate to the north is actively turning on. And this is the moment, in my opinion, that indicates that Arknights' main story and Enfield's main story, or at least Enfield's past story, are going to collide. We are going to get a merger of the storylines and then possibly a splitting story path where we send people to Talos, the gate collapses, and then we have Arknights continues, but it's the story of Terra, while Endfields is the story of Talos, and they are now two story paths that are happening at the same time in sync.
Which is so hard to do. I don't really know what they're going to do there.
But that's the only conclusion I'm pulling from this gate turning on, because again, these concept trailers are almost always telling us or presenting us what's going to be happening.
So you can do it's hard, but I mean, since they've basically established like two different planets and two different, main characters, what they could do is they could have the stories overlap at very specific points and then branch off again. So like maybe instead of getting, say, a Sui sibling every year, you get an Enfield or a Talos Terra touch point where there's like stories that overlap, and like maybe in both games they tell the same story but from two different perspectives, and then they branch off again for a whole year.
Right.
I like that a lot.
Very possibly.
They could do that because at that point, like what it does is it sort of creates these little anchor points between the story, without actually having to have them interact like continuously. And it also means that you wouldn't have to play both games if you really didn't want to, because you'd be seeing it from the perspective that mattered, but you get the same information either way.
Right. And that's my thing is like,
that'd be the only way I could see them doing that, because like I don't know how else
and I think the gate's going to collapse. We might have a time skip or something along those lines where the gate collapses, and now we're playing the story of Terra after the separation of Talos, and we're playing with the repercussions of that on Terra in Arknights, while dealing with the future of that over on Talos, because Talos is 150 years later.
I will say that I am confused of the logistics of it, because just by the nature of a CN server and the global server, and like CN being however many months ahead. So like, do you release that like Enfield X
That's
Arknights?
actually the most complicated part. Yeah.
100%. And someone actually mentioned I should tell you how old this concept trailer is. This is from over a year ago.
Well, I mean, it would have to be.
Like,
to write a story like this, you have to go like, I don't even want to say a year in advance. You have to go a couple of years in advance.
Yeah.
Right.
At least.
Well, and we've known for a while, back when Arknights was first being written and we were first getting the Arknights storyline kind of presented to us in the betas of the OG Arknights, we knew they had most of the world and a lot of the like general story plots already planned out ahead of time. And it was kind of like, obviously, I'm sure they developed the specifics of that as time went on. They didn't necessarily know exactly where they were going to go, but they had the world and the long-term plan already sorted out. And it's just a matter of them kind of slowly trickling that out to us over the course of the last 7 years.
Like the Reed Victoria stuff, like it took like 3 or 4 years for us to see that, but the bones of that were there in like year 1.
Yes, yeah, we knew where arc 2 of the story was gonna go from basically like initial release. Like chapter 4 was hinting at it. Moving past the Stargate though, here's a really interesting image, because these are a bunch of Farron moots seemingly, and they're all seemingly fleeing from something, along with like all the humans also kind of like traveling the same path. There is a theory, and I'm not the one responsible for this, but I don't know who actually started this theory, but there's a theory that the future of the game and the reason why we're kind of going to Talos is to flee from either the Seaborn themselves, possibly now trying to enact their plan, or like assimilation of the world, or it is like Originium is like causing the world to collapse, and they're having to go to the Stargate to flee. With like all the Farenboots themselves basically trying to protect the people that still remain. So this could be a lot of things, but we have not seen this in the game yet, as far as I understand it. We see, Originium rapidly growing and assimilating the world, which we know, again, that's Priestess's plan. She's trying to push that. We know Rimbilliton is in the future of the main story as well. This is the part that I really wanted to get to. So, what we're looking at here is the remnants of an obvious, like, ancient civilization thing, possibly the remains of a ship or another Stargate or something, but it's in the middle of an ocean. Now, we don't see this on the planet anywhere, but that's why I'm thinking this might be what is on the other side of the planet. The, like, South Pole, if you would.
Like, this is the remnants of a precursor ship. You mean?
Either a massive precursor ship or some other construct that they were working on. There is a note earlier where they said, like, the arc fell, and the sky lit ablaze. This might be the quote-unquote arc.
I guess it could be either or, but when I read that, I assumed it was the original Rhodes Island, like, precursor starship.
Possibly. But again, it's like, if it is the Rhodes Island starship and the arc itself is more like Rhodes Island carrying Originium with them, I mean, it could be. We also know that the Stargate itself seemingly was sort of like dropped on the planet in some way. There's indications of that based on lines that Sui actually says. But then what is this is still the question. And again, this thing's massive. Like, you can see clouds here. Like, this thing is enormous. Like, this is easily like the size of a continent in and of itself.
I'm being told that there's apparently a CG in Chapter 15 that shows the back of Terra, but I can't find it.
Yeah, I don't remember a CG showing that, but I might. Oh, someone in my chat is saying it's actually 16 and it's a scene involving Hirda.
16. Okay.
Well, I can't help you. I got nothing.
Yeah,
that's fair.
we're talking about like entire speculation stuff, but it does end with this. This Terra is ours. Again, the fact that the Foundation is so focused on Terra really has me thinking that, like, they're hinting at that.
Which kind of brings us back to the Endmin may or may not having closed the Cosmic Gate to protect them from the Foundation.
Yeah.
I mean, that still is the theory that makes the most sense to me.
Yeah, agree.
Agreed. 100%.
God damn.
So yeah,
do a lot.
That's now you have heard my crazy theory of where I think Arknights is going long term.
So space.
Space.
We do like that place.
Do we though?
Well, there are some certain creatures there that we're not fond of, I guess. But I like the idea of it. So do we have anything else we want to cover? Y'all think?
Yeah, I'm looking for that that screenshot that someone told me was in chapter 16, but I'm not seeing it personally, so I
couldn't find it either.
Yeah.
We could look for it later.
Well, if I go back to our list, ooh, no, that's my script. Don't look at that. I think so. We've covered most of the stuff. The only thing we haven't really covered is, like, we could go over more Inman theories. I think we kind of already talked about that a fair bit.
Kind of part of the other topics.
There's the flashback scene and then the boss and lyrics. Now, me and Ramen have an entire video already breaking down the lyrics for the boss fight of 1.4. I don't know if you've already looked at those, Ash.
I read them.
Okay. Would you like to do a quick breakdown with us?
Sure.
Let's pull those up. A Lake Rios boss fight.
Use the restroom while you pull those up.
See if I can.
No, we talked about this. That's not allowed.
I believe Lynn's just has them in here already.
He has disobeyed.
Here we go. Yeah. So Lynn's luckily has the lyrics just added right here. No, I don't. Close that. All right. Okay. Well, and I'll just proceed because again, me and Ramen have already kind of gone over this. But want you on your knees. Buried love grows teeth. 1,000 stars weeping. I want you on your knees. I'm pretty sure that is just the boss kind of talking to Inman, because Inman has denied him. This part, so if I cannot...
think Alekrios wants to bring Endman to his knees?
Well, so that's...
submit?
Yeah, like, but that's the thing. So Alekrios wants the Endman, and Alekrios has, like, that line during the phase transition of the boss fight where he's like, I will guide kin. I will light myself ablaze to guide kin on their proper path or something along those lines. So he, like, even though the Endman has denied him, he still wants the Endman to pick up the mantle that, based on Alekrios' understanding, the Endman should be taking. And so I believe that's kind of what he's trying to do. He's like, I have my buried love grows teeth. 1,000 stars weeping. I'm kind of just assuming that this is like, I'm reading into this as the like, all of our creations are weeping at your choice, is kind of how I'm reading into it. That I could be completely wrong, but that's how I've read that. Do you have other ideas though?
I mean, not really.
Okay.
I guess it's like to me, this is just a lamentation.
Yeah.
Yep.
And that's what all
So
of this
it's
is
just
at the end of the day.
It's basically said, you bit me. Sit. Bad dog.
Bad dog.
No, I mean, like, really though, that's literally what he says.
Yeah.
When you ask a dog to sit, they're on their knees.
Mm-hmm. It's true.
And then they're a little fallen dog, not a god. See?
Dog and God.
And then if you bury your love, it's a bone. If it grows teeth, that means you dug it up, and or the bone bit you back.
Right. Okay.
Bad bone.
I like your analogies. They're really good.
The precursors are dogs.
Okay, I'm done. Vinny came in and she's just looking at me, and I'm just like, oh yes, this will be great. No, I mean, this just seems like a lamentation or like a betrayal of like, my loyalty has come back to bite me, quite literally.
Agreed. That's kind of my perception as well.
And then he just kind of cries for the rest of the song.
Well, see, but there's some interesting stuff that if you decide to dig into it, there's a lot of interesting stuff you can pull out of it.
Yeah. And I know that the writer said that everything here has meaning, except how much meaning matters to our current understanding. You know what I mean?
I completely agree.
Motivation versus what actually is, or
No, how to put this? You know how, like, sometimes you'll be told one thing, or you'll hear a prophecy and it means one thing. You think it
Yeah.
means one thing, but then so you interpret it one way, and then you get to the future when the prophecy is supposed to happen, and you realize that other things are happening, and you're like, "Oh shit, I misinterpreted all of this."
Mhm.
But so it's not like the words didn't have meaning; it's that they don't mean anything to you yet because you don't have the information to inform yourself on the do you know
Right.
what I mean?
I
Like,
catch your
I
drift,
guess
yeah.
I guess my question is, do we have enough information currently to which we can actually derive something meaningful from this? Because, like, when I read this, I'm like, most of this we already know.
Mhm.
Yeah.
We already know most of the stuff. We can infer most of this stuff. Like, nothing here to me is like really standing out.
Right.
But I do wonder if we revisit this in a year,
Right. Well, just like we did with the
will
concept
that
trailer,
change?
where we didn't have any context for the concept trailer, but now we can go back to it and actually, like, we know what some of the concept trailer was pointing out.
It's like a
Right.
it's like a Greek prophecy where you think it means something and then like at the end of the story it means something completely different.
Right. I mean, and that's always kind of what prophecies are in a lot of these stories. And at the end of the
Yeah.
day, um,
Yeah, I just watched the Odyssey. What of it?
I still need to watch it. I actually am really excited to see that one. Um, what I will say though is if I break some of these down, let's specifically go into here. It is. There's a couple lines here that I want to point out specifically. You have turned this paradise amongst the stars into a tomb. 10,000 years of silence trapped inside a barren womb. To note, in my perception, 10,000 years is almost the exact amount of time, you give or take a couple thousand, in which Talos 2 was separated from Terra. Because Terra, we know, we know like the story of Originium and how long the precursors like were on Terra without access to Talos was somewhere between like 13,000 and 10,000 years. We know that that's generally the timeline. So if we assume that this is referencing how long Talos was separated from Terra, then we can say you have turned this paradise, Talos, among the stars into a tomb because all the precursors on Talos are either dead or trapped inside of sarcophagi. 10,000 years of silence from not being able to hear anything back from Terra, trapped inside a barren womb. Also referencing Talos because we know that most of the races, all the elders and the ancients, which are basically all the non-Sarkaz people on Terra, they all originated as animals from Talos 2. So Talos 2 is the source of life in that way. So this line specifically, it to me seems pretty straightforward in what it's actually saying. Are there any do you disagree with that conclusion?
Mm. Yesn't?
Perfect.
How to how do I phrase this? Are you sure the barren womb is Talos?
I am saying that mostly from the viewpoint that, again, we know that two of the major races of Terra originate from it. So it is sort of a womb of life, but it
Right,
also
but
is
are
now
you
dead in that way.
I guess the word inside throws me
Like trapped
because
inside of it.
well that implies that like there's only one method of escape. So if 10,000 years of silence trapped inside a barren womb, if your womb is Talos, that's saying that you've been trapped inside Talos for 10,000 years.
Mm-hmm.
Why?
Yeah, that's a good question. I do not have an answer for
Because
that.
if there are other cosmic gates at that point,
So
What's wrong with them?
Hmm.
Why can't they leave?
Mhm.
What is trapped inside? Like, to me, trapped inside Terra makes sense because of the star pod,
right.
right? I get that. Trapped inside Talos doesn't make sense to me.
It could also be, so the one other location where we kind of have sort of reference in some way to this is back in 1.2 when Ardashir says that to the north within the center of the aurora is the source of all life. And that he could be referencing the Stargate, but he could also be referencing possibly like the ether side itself, maybe.
Is it at all possible that the barren womb though is Terra? Because a womb isn't the
Oh,
source of life.
hmm.
A
So
womb receives the source of life,
Chad's telling
right?
me that the Doctor was in stasis for roughly 13K years. That's about 10,000 years. Like the Doctor trapped in Terra, like you said, on
The the
Terra.
other the other thing that kind of gets me about that line in particular is the fact that Alecrios never talks about Talos, really. He only ever
Mhm.
talks about Terra. So to me, the song should also be about Terra. That's where I'm kind of like yesent, right? Because
Right.
like the rationale does make sense, but also maybe.
Yeah. No, and that's a fair point. And the reality is, like, again, this is all interpretation, so it could very well be referencing Terra. The only reason I don't buy Terra being a barren womb is because there was life on Terra. The Teak originated from there. We know that the Farron moods were also there, and they kind of helped make Terra hospitable in the first place. And they kind of lived alongside the Teak for a long period of time.
But then, if you assume that it's Talos, then Talos is barren.
I mean, I think maybe it
Barren
was.
barren can mean one of two things.
Mhm.
Barren can be like barren wasteland, as in like nothing can grow here, but barren can also mean infertile.
Right.
Mhm.
And I'm thinking
So
it could
if it's
have become
Talos,
infertile as like after we fled to Terra and Talos became infertile in that process of fleeing to Terra. Or the observers scorched it as like scorched all life from the planet.
hmm,
Again, it's
I don't
also
know.
just as likely that they're just referring to like they've been trapped like within the ether side for 10,000 years or something along those lines. But that doesn't make as much sense to me either because
The 150 years thing.
yeah, the 100 like the foundations supposedly have been inside the ether side for 150 years because the Enman put them there based on what we now know.
Yes. Well, some of them.
Yeah. Well, we'll move on from that line because again, this is all interpretation regardless.
This is kind of why I wonder if we have the information needed to actually interpret it yet.
Well,
But
and again, this is where like to me that regardless of whether we're right or wrong, I think it's just interesting to theorize on this. Um, and that's more so what I'm doing here is I'm trying to see if we can glean any information from the lyrics that we can then cross reference later. Um, and just like that line specifically seems like one. Another one would be this one here. The soft void opens up its eyes to find that you are the destroyer. I saw the face of God turn blind, and he cried, "No, you are the destroyer." Which to me is like soft void could be referring to the ether side itself, kind of looking at the creations of either Enmin or the precursors, and then the face of God turned blind, which I'm again interpreting that's Enmin with the mask, like unable to like recall memories and is kind of like blind to his own past. and then
It can
Enmin
be.
is
It can also
responding
be
back.
a reference to a false god.
Also true. Yeah, I can see that.
Blind gods are generally considered like demiurges.
Hmm.
That's all.
Okay.
Hmm.
And see, I think there was one other line in here that I remembered being kind of something I was really interested in. Obviously this is just like he's like, yeah, my god denied who I am, so I'm gonna burn with the will of the damned. That's just, yeah.
The dog being mad.
The dog is mad.
I think
I'd be
like
mad.
the
Here it
major
is, the last part right here.
wait, that ending, this outro is like the biggest like question mark to me.
Yeah. What have we become, oh my brother? If this is from the viewpoint of Alacrios, like the rest of it definitely is, then either he has a brother, like another creation of his own that he's referring to here, strung from the stars, these empty frames. For what have I done? Please forgive me. Somewhere far away in a dream, my heart beats again. I'm like, this seems really confusing to me if this is still Alacrios talking. But it could just be like, what have we done, oh my brother, referring to like maybe other creations, and these empty frames are like, maybe he's a statue, but he is like an entity who was inhabiting the statue. Again, very speculative. I'm not expecting this to be true in any capacity, but
It
I just
could
found that really
also be
interesting.
Young Death, but also either way, at the either interpretation, this is all too nebulous. We have too little information to make
Right.
anything out of it.
I'm actually leaning towards this being Young Death regardless, because again, if it's like, we know Young Death refers to the Inman as her brother. So what have we become, oh my brother, strung from the stars, these empty frames? If her body and the Inman's body are clones or constructs created to possess the minds, like the minds of precursors inhabit these empty frames, I think that would then make sense. But again, as you're right, we don't have enough information to truly know for sure. I just think that's an interesting evaluation.
Makes sense.
Yeah. Anyway, we've now covered that. The last thing on my list was to just go over the flashback scene, which I don't know if you have anything you want to add, Ash, about what you think the flashback scene might actually be hinting at.
The one with Young Death in it?
Yeah,
Yes.
and like the factory of masks.
I mean,
HSR.
if you take it metaphorically, I think it's more of like a the masks become less literal, like they're not actually masks, but they might just represent iterations of the Endman.
That's exactly where I'm at.
How
I agree.
many of you did I try to make before we actually made a functional one? Alternatively, you could say how many lives did you have to live before
Right.
this one? How many times have you lived and died? How many times have you tried and failed? Because like here's one thing.
Hmm.
You want to go Greek.
Mhm.
Young Death would be Hades.
Hmm.
So
I see it.
Endman being the brother would be Zeus, no?
It would make sense. Although that does leave Poseidon out of the picture.
I mean, well, not until the Seaborn arrive.
Okay, fair. You know
Oh,
what? Oh no, that's a fair point.
Anyway, no. My point is like allegorically that kind of makes sense to me.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Also, Zeus is a notorious fuck up, so
True. True.
for an Endman to be something who constantly tries and fails to kind of like Sisyphus his way through life, I mean, I think that is kind of appropriate. Also, Hades is pretty chill. And
True.
like and typically like a pretty
Yeah.
fair god. Like, yeah, he deals with the underworld and stuff, but like he's pretty steady, I guess, very stable.
Mm-hmm.
Very the scales are balanced.
Yeah. Generally, throughout all the stories, people subscribe to the idea that Hades is evil, and almost every single time Hades goes, "Nah, what are you talking about? I'm just a chill dude who just wishes I wasn't being
Pretty
bothered
much.
all the time."
Yeah. Pretty
Uh,
much.
I think I'm learning that I have to dive back into Greek myth, like my Percy Jackson days, to try and get a handle on all this.
Percy Jackson. Oh, I loved that series when I was a kid. Okay. Yeah, and that's
I like how
generally
you guys go, I liked Percy Jackson when I was a kid, and I'm just like, dude, Percy Jackson wasn't even written when I was a kid.
when I say kid, admittedly, I'm talking about like late teens, but
I was in high school and I read it all, I think.
yeah,
I don't
I
freaking
think I was high
remember. It
school.
just wasn't
Yeah.
a kid book for me. When I was a kid, well, no, when I was in high school, the very first Harry Potter books came out, just for context. So,
Yeah, I was
Yeah, I
definitely
think that was
younger
in
when Harry Potter
elementary
first came
school, I'm
out.
not gonna lie.
I think I
think
admittedly
so.
also was always late to these series. I usually was reading them and like 3/4 of them were already out already. So I was always late to the party when it came to reading these.
You're setting up the backlog, of course.
Of course, of course. Yeah, it was all intentional for sure. Um
All right.
yeah, so your theory though, Ash, pretty much matches up with what I'm currently theorizing is yeah, like these are either like he's a clone or these are like failed attempts, or we are seeing like the mask itself is representing like the blinders, an attempt to keep Inman from remembering the past. And the reason I bring that particular one up is because Oracle and Doctor in the original game, the reason Doctor lost the memories of Oracle is because Teresa purposely wiped them in an attempt to remove Oracle's sort of inability to decide. He was struggling to decide whether to proceed with the Originium project or to like side with the Terrans and help them live, and help them continue to build civilization. And he he was so conflicted that basically Priestess, and this is going to be where we bring up the linchpin, um, which is its own whole thing. But essentially, uh, Priestess pushes the Doctor into deciding to kind of side with Originium and not the Terrans initially. And that's why he betrays Teresa and like gets her killed. Uh, because the linchpin itself is a device that exists essentially within the precursor's brains and allows them to communicate telepathically or like through like some digital means while they're inside the sarcophagi, and it essentially keeps their minds active so they don't go brain dead while inside the sarcophagi. um and it's kind of hinted, and it's really weird because it's subtly hinted in Babel, but then it's much more hinted in the Arknights ARG of all things, where in the ARG it's basically hinted that like Priestess used a back door into Oracle's linchpin to push him in that direction, whether it's kind of full on mind control or whether she just kind of like basically like subtly was like, hey, you should do this. Like, you can't decide, do this. It's not really clear. A lot of people hate the idea of the linchpin itself because they think it's mind control, but that's just, again, it's not really made clear if that's the case or not. But the whole point is, via the linchpin, she convinces Oracle to betray Teresa and proceed with the Originium project. Then Teresa, in her dying breath, uses Civilite Eterna to wipe Oracle's memories and leaves him with basically his bare feelings. She removes his ability to use logic and reasoning to decide on the future that he wants to proceed with, and he instead has to rely on only his new memories that he generates with Amia and kal'tsit and Rhodes Island, and his own feelings and emotions to go with his gut, which is to side with civilization.
Do you have the story part of it that shows the linchpin at work?
If let's see, I think because they do have references to it here. I'd have to like scroll around and find the specific moment.
The screenshot I sent you a while back. I'll find it again.
Okay. Yeah, the unfortunate thing is like again with the way that the story's told, there's just an enormous amount of text where it's kind of leading up to the moment, and so there's a lot of back like flashbacks here of Oracle talking to Priestess, as well as then it goes back and forth between that and all these other discussions. It's like here's one. Priestess. I understand your dilemma. Our debates are far beyond what those little life forms known as humans could participate in, but this is the only way. You and I both know that much. If
I'll put it in the
perhaps
chat.
we still have time for its return, it being the observers, we can envision things together, achieve them together, describe anything and everything within the boundaries of the universe together. I hope that in those fragile moments you will always stand by my side. You will, won't you? So this would be like Priestess like bringing back memories of their debates, being like, this is the path forward. This is what will buy us time to further consider the future options we have. Let me pull this up. Perfect. Thank you. Perfect. Meow. Perhaps I should reveal everything to kal'tsit and Teresa. Originium has led them down roughly the correct path. Arrogant though it may be, this has been sufficient for these souls to perform a new kind of miracle. And then it like this change between white and black is supposed to be like a change between the mindsets. So perhaps I should reveal everything. Perhaps I instead should re-examine Teresa and kal'tsit's plan. Babel's research has proceeded faster than expected. Terra's political structure is rather primitive. Babel does not yet have the ability to transcend the barriers of race and nation, so that it may represent Terra as a whole. But I should believe in Terra, believe in the people to build their own future. No, I should carry on with the project. At least the vestiges of those who came before can live on within Originium. Believe in her, which goes back to black, so believe in Teresa. So this is the scene of like he's changing mindsets, he's going back and forth, and it is Priestess that pushes him over the edge with the again using the linchpin as like the medium to do so. So and again, like this is where the whole like our current storyline is still very nebulous. We don't know where it's going to go. Also, this is interesting because again, that's a Stargate right there. this is what we see every time we go into a flashback sequence with Priestess. But yeah, the takeaway I have is like the future of the story is going to have us either reconciling with Priestess and finding a middle ground, possibly with a larger threat like the Foundation kind of playing a part in that decision making. Or we're going to sort of have to tell Priestess no, like we refuse and we're going to lock you out, and then she's going to be possibly leading the Foundation in the future is kind of the two paths I'm seeing in front of us.
I feel like it's a little too tricky to put Priestess in Endfield.
I agree.
And yeah, go ahead, Ramen. Let me.
I'm of the mind that before Arknights links up with Enfield, with what we were talking about before, with like it becoming too like it merges and then breaks apart again. I feel like the story is going to resolve the Oracle / Doctor and Priestess debate. I don't think Priestess themselves will be involved with anything past that branching point. Personally,
Logistically, it would just be too difficult. Like even if you can write a story like that, which I believe, I believe in Hypergriff. I think they could probably pull that off. But the problem is it's not just about Hypergriff, it's also about literally all of the players from both games also being able to, follow that. following a split story like that isn't really difficult in like a regular standalone RPG game.
Right.
But in a live service game, that becomes real tricky real quick.
2 forever games going on forever with infinite lore.
Yeah.
Well, and the
Yeah.
only reason I disagree is mainly because of the prologue. Because to me, at least, I see the scene from the prologue where Inman goes to this grave and sees, and we know what this is, this giant tablet in the middle, because that is the historical record of the precursor civilization. This is something that was left behind by the precursors. It's something that is shown that Priestess directly, actively like protects and interacts with. It's something that they see within Civilite Eterna. This thing shows up multiple times. The graveyard of civilization, as someone in chat so well put it. And the fact that this is here, and this guy just runs past it. Oh man, what an awful video to pull up. I'm so mad at that guy now.
I mean, just in general, I feel like, are you saying that this is Priestess's influence? Because I feel like this is just like the vestiges of what remains. You know what I mean? Like after the fact.
So what I'm saying is, I think whether Priestess is directly involved in Enfield story or not, I think her effects on the world, at least, are still present. And we're going to be seeing that more and more as the game goes on, in my opinion.
Sure.
And I think Inman is directly related to that. I think there's a very good chance that Inman is either a homunculus style entity, born of like the union of Doctor and Priestess, like their agreement to create something, which would be how, in my mind, you could continue the story of Arknights while still having the Doctor there, and you could continue the story of Enfield with a character with the Doctor's memories. Because that's the other thing. This to me tells me Inman has the memories of the Doctor. I don't think there's any refuting that, in my opinion. Because the entire prologue is you going through memories
Teresa.
and you remember Teresa. Like this flower here, this legacy, a tomb, a lonely soul, never meant to bear such burdens, is directly referencing Teresa and the Doctor's relationship with Teresa.
Same with the Patriot statue, I guess. How would the Enman even know?
How would
without
the
that, right?
Inman know who Patriot is? Exactly. Where is that? That was a little further ahead here. Yeah, this right here. That's Patriot. That's the last Wendigo, who again was one of our first major one of the first major like blockages that we had in the story. He was one of the first major combatants we had to fight, and he's the one who connected with the Myriad Souls and introduced prophecy to us for the first time. And we know that he technically wanted, like for like long term, he wanted the betterment of the Sarkaz. So it makes some sense that now, like if we manage to reconcile, we manage to sort of find a way forward. The remnants of Buldrakus T or Patriot would be wanting to help us. And if this is the assimilated universe, well, Buldrakus T was assimilated. Like he was infected and actively died because of his infection. So again, it would make sense that he would be there. And Inman very clearly says, even you have decided to help me. Inman knows who that is.
I think all I'm just saying is that everything that culminates into this with like the Enman and Priestess handshaking and like the Enman being created / getting the Doctor's memories or whatever, that's going to be resolved before Enfield and the OG Arknights meets up. You know what I mean?
Possibly. I
wouldn't
haven't
want-
even speculated on
Yeah.
that specifically,
Yeah.
but yeah.
Speaking of resolved, though,
Yeah.
I gotta go.
Yeah, it's been a while. Fair enough.
I gotta go, man.
No, yeah. This is, I think,
For sure.
this is as good a time
Mostly
to end as
because
any.
It's kind of fun. I need to go to the hardware store and they close at 5 around here.
Ooh.
They close at 5, really?
Welcome to living in the middle of nowhere.
I guess that's fair.
I mean, I could drive 30 minutes and go to Lowe's, but I don't want to.
Fair enough.
Yeah, that 30-minute drive just for low seems like a bit much.
Regardless, it's a good place to
Well,
stop.
Yeah, regardless, I think we've covered everything plus more. The only things we haven't really covered are Beast Lords, what exactly Civilite Eterna was. We had some possible literature connections we could go into, but
I feel like this is all for
yeah,
future Enfield story anyways.
a
It's
lot of
fine.
this is stuff that isn't relevant to current Enfield anyway, which is why I put it down here as like optional stuff. So I think we're good. We covered everything we wanted to plus more. So I got through a lot more than I expected to get through today.
All right.
But
Well,
again, I thank you for joining. It was a great time. I hope you guys had fun. I know I probably
Oh, yeah.
yapped a lot.
you're the best expert here. Thanks for joining with us, Ash. I appreciate it.
Thanks for being patient with my education in the hypergriff universe.
It's an
Because that's
entry course.
the first half of the stream I can comment because it's like, Enfield stuff and I'm a little more familiar with it. But when it comes to the deep lore, it's just I'm just in lore school.
Yep, and fully understand. And the worst part is everything we talked about, it's still like maybe 1/10, 1/12 of
I know.
everything that
It's
we
so
could have gone into.
dense.
There's so much. And we're bound to get stuff wrong because like even though I've read everything, I regularly have to go back and reread everything every single time I make a new video because there's just too much
yeah.
to remember. So
Oh, I hear you. I have the same issue with Genshin and Star Rail.
yep, I'm sure. Those games seem to be maybe not as dense because they're not visual novels, but they have a lot of background lore, it seems, as well. So
They have a lot of
have their own
files.
They have their own deep lore.
yeah. Well, and they're also all connected somewhat, from what I've understood.
Yeah.
Is this another yesent?
Another yesent.
It's another yesent for now. There's a couple that are like canonically connected in a way that you absolutely cannot refute, but there are others that are still a bit of a question mark.
Yep.
So we'll see.
Well,
Gotcha.
hey, maybe in the future, you can do what I just did with you, but for
The
Hoyo
reverse?
stuff. Yeah,
That sounds fun.
I can
Oh,
I can take
God.
notes and learn about Hoyo stuff.
I feel like I would be doing you a disservice to do that because no one should have to dive into that. I should not subject anyone else to this insanity.
Look, I subject myself to this stuff all the time. I did it with Arknights. I do it for Fate.
Yeah. If we did Fate, we can do it all. Let's be real.
Yeah, for whatever reason, I love subjecting myself to ridiculously complicated world building. So that just sounds fun to me.
All right. I mean, it's your funeral, but okay.
And it will be one.
Well, thanks for doing this. This was fun. I learned a lot. I hope everyone else did.
Yeah, hopefully all the viewers had fun. I hope so.
We should probably do this again when the next super lore
Yeah,
dense.
we'll keep the next one shorter. we'll
You want to do 4 hours again?
Yeah,
We always say that, but it never happens.
It does never happen. I've done so many of these podcasts on multiple different channels at this point, and you're right. It always goes long.
Yeah.
But yeah, maybe when we next have a really big major patch with a lore drop that we really want to talk about, we can plan another podcast. We'll plan out a bit more of a concise points to talk about, and we'll see how it goes.
I assume it'll be a 2.0 or something.
I mean,
I don't know. I mean, it'll be before 2.0.
Yeah, with Typhon coming out,
yeah, you're right.
I'm thinking Typhon will have a lot of lore drops. I'm hoping Typhon will have a lot of lore drops.
I'm getting ahead of myself and rereading all her lore.
Right. So, if we're correct about that, if she does, then maybe that's when we'll do the next one. But yeah, I had fun, and I hope you guys had fun.
Oh, yeah.
Fun? I got a whole map explored. All right. Well,
Nice.
thanks for coming, everybody. Appreciate it. Hope you had fun, and we will see you all in the next one.
Yep.
Later.
Thank you all. See ya.
Bye.
Bye.